お姉ちゃんなんだから弟に譲りなさい。出来が悪いんだから進学なんてしないで家にお金を入れなさい。器量が悪いんだから離縁されないように婚家にしがみつきなさい。実の親の教えに従い、26年間私は生きてきた。人生をかけ、家族や婚家に捧げたい。そんな教えは罠だった。私が実家からの洗脳を解いた物語にお付き合いください。私は里穂。今年26歳になった事務員だ。中学を卒業してすぐ小さな会社で働き始め、今年社会人10年目を迎えた。そして私は新婚である。夫の正樹は私よりも2つ年上で、会社の取引先の営業さん。私の綺麗な字と笑顔に惚れ込んだという。そんな夫もいつも笑顔を絶やさない穏やかな人だ。夫の家族は皆とても賢くて、退職するまで義両親は大手企業で働き、義妹の優香も大学院で難しい研究をしているらしい。一方私の両親は観光地で蕎麦屋をやっていて、経営はいつもギリギリ。弟は後継ぎとして専門学校に進学したけれど、私は弟の学費がかかるから大して勉強もできないお前は働けと言われたのだ。私の稼ぎはほとんど弟の学費と実家の生活費に消える。仕方ない。家が貧乏で私も出来が悪いのだから。そんな私とエリート家庭に生まれた夫の結婚。その格差に私は身構えていた。うちの両親は大喜びだけれど、離婚を心配して、どんなに理不尽な扱いをされても絶対にしがみつけと私に伝えた。なんとか顔合わせや結婚式をこなし、無事入籍。あっという間に年末年始の初帰省を迎えた。不安でカチコチになる私に夫は、両親は厳しいけれど悪い人たちではないよ。と安心させようとする。でも、顔合わせも結婚式も、義実家の人々が私に笑みを向けてくれたことはなかった。お前は嫁なんだから、どんな扱いをされても逆らうな、という実の両親の教えを胸に、エプロンと手土産を持って義実家に帰省した。お帰りなさい、正樹。ただいま。年末、掃除の行き届いた玄関で義母が笑顔で迎えてくれる。ほっとして私も夫に続いて上がろうとすると、義母に手を引かれた。あ、待って、里穂さんはこっちよ。え？義母に促されるままついていくと、玄関とは真逆にあるお勝手に案内された。嫁が玄関から入るなんてダメよ。これからはこっちで脱いでちょうだい。あ、はい。そうだ、うっかりしていた。私はお客様じゃない。義母の言葉に納得した私は、お勝手から義実家に入った。そして台所でエプロンをつけさせられると、そのまま私は座る暇もなく、義母の後について働いた。廊下の雑巾掛けからおせちの準備まで、義母の指示通りせっせとこなした。おせちは義実家の味付けがわからず、こんな味じゃ新年を迎えられないわ。と何度も作り直しをさせられた。廊下の雑巾掛けは、あら、意外とうまいじゃない。とぽつりとつぶやいていた。慣れない場所での家事はしんどいけれど、夫のためだと思い気力を振り絞った。すべての仕事が終わった頃には身も心もくたくた。夕食を食べる気力もない。義母が、嫁は部屋にでも戻ってなさい。と言ってくれたので、ありがたく部屋で休むことにした。部屋に戻って畳の上に横になる。慣れない家でも畳に寝転ぶと少し心が落ち着いた。しばらくするとノックもなく襖が開き、いつの間にか帰省していた義妹、優香がこちらを覗き込んだ。あら、旦那の実家で寝転ぶなんて、さすが中卒は違うわ。すみません。恥ずかしい気持ちで慌てて姿勢を正すと、しかめっ面の優香が説教を始める。いい？嫁いできたんだから、旦那の家のルールをしっかり守るのよ。はい。
食事が出るとか、暖かい部屋で寝られるとか思わないで。今夜から納屋で寝るのよ。
はい。
本当にわかっているの？
え？優香が眉を潜める。あれ、また何かしくじったかしら。優香は続ける。
私は、あなたに食事は抜きで、家の中で寝ちゃダメだって言っているのよ。
ああ、はい。嫁ですからね。早く納屋に移動した方がいいですよね。すみません。目を丸くする優香に頭を下げると、慌てて自分の荷物を持って外に移動した。納屋を開けて明かりをつけた。埃っぽいけれど、掃除をすれば2晩くらい大丈夫。早速、ほうきを持って履き始める私を見て、いつの間にかついてきていた優香と義母がなぜか慌て始める。
なんで掃除してるのよ。
あら、またやらかした？寝るために埃を払っていますが、まだ嫁のお仕事があったらそちらをいたします。
そう？
納屋に毛布はありますか？あと、お水を一杯だけもらえると助かります。あとは、言葉をつなごうとして息を吸った途端、埃が気管支にダイレクトに入ってきてしまう。
ちょっとどうしたのよ。
すみません。埃を吸い込んだら喘息の発作が。激しく咳込む私を見て、優香の顔がさっと青く染まる。
やだ、早くこっちに来なさい。
でも、
いいから、お母さん、水を用意して。あなたはこっち。
咳込んで言葉も出ない私を、優香は半分引きずるように抱えながら、母屋に連れて行ってくれた。清潔な部屋で義母が用意してくれた水を飲むと、少しずつ呼吸が戻っていく。
落ち着いた？
はい。みっともないところを見せてしまいました。正座のまま深々と頭を下げる。するとなぜか、優香と義母が目を合わせた。私が発作を起こしてしまったことを心配してくれているらしい。お母さんと優香さんはとても優しいですね。体調管理のできないダメ嫁に優しくしてくださるなんて。感謝の思いを込めて告げると、優香の口がキュッと引き締まった。
違うでしょ。ただの嫁いびりなのに。
義母が慌てる。あれ、何のことだろう。聞き間違いかな。はい。お母さんは嫁の仕事をつきっきりで教えてくれましたよね。ご自分だって忙しいのに。
そうだけど。
優香さんも夜露をしのげる寝床に案内してくれました。
夜露？
うちの実家ではお客さんが来ると布団が足りないので、私は公園で寝ていました。二人が目を丸くして声を上げる。私変なこと言った？お客さんを優先するのは当然ですよね。
いや、私はそんなこと一度もないわよ。ねえ、お母さん。
そうよ。若い女の子を公園で寝ろだなんて。そんなこと。そうですか。じゃあ、私が出来の悪い娘だからですかね。
あなた、ちょっとおかしいわよ。大丈夫？
顔を引きつらせながら優香が私を心配してくれる。こんな私を心配してくれるなんて、やっぱりお二人ともいい人です。嬉しくて思わず笑みがこぼれる。しかし、私の思いが伝わらなかったのか、優香は顔をぐしゃぐしゃにする。そして大声を上げて泣き始めた。優香さん、すみません。私何か悪いことを。
違うのよ。あなたは何も悪くない。悪いのは私とお母さんなの。私はあなたが気に食わなくて、だからこんなひどいことを。
ひどいこと？
ごめんなさい。
私の言葉なんて全く聞かず、取り乱したように泣く優香と、その隣で静かにうなだれる義母。その声を聞いて駆けつけてきた夫も、何事だと目を丸くする。状況が飲み込めない私は、ただただ唖然とするしかなかった。1時間くらい経って、ようやく落ち着いた優香と義母に話を聞くことができた。どうやら私が一日中働き詰めだったのも、納屋で寝ろという指示も本当に嫁いびりだったらしい。夫には、里穂さんが我が家に馴染めるように、今日は私たちに全てを任せてちょうだいと伝えてあったそうだ。ギフとお酒を飲んでいてすっかり出来上がっていた夫は何の疑問も持たなかったらしい。とはいえ、実際に嫁いびりを受けながら気づかない私には何も文句が言えない。似た者夫婦なのだろう。そして嫁いびりにも理由はあった。私の実家から結納金を請求されていたから。その額なんと500万円。なんでそんな高い結納金を？あなたのご両親は店の跡取りになるはずだった娘を嫁にやるんだから当然って感じだったわよ。跡取りは弟って言っていたのに。しかも、娘を嫁にやったせいで店の経営が傾くことがあれば、その度に金をよこせって言ってきてね。結婚前に正樹には何度も、結婚は考え直した方がいいんじゃないかって説得したんだけど、里穂はいい子だからって聞く耳持たなくて。だから嫁いびりをして、自ら出ていくように仕向けたかったの。あんな親の娘だから、ちょっと嫌な思いをすれば、すぐに逃げていくと思ってね。でもあなた、何も気づかないどころか、すごく一生懸命働くんだもの。正樹の言葉は何も間違っていなかったわ。それどころか、実の親にひどい扱いを受けていたなんて。優香はまた涙目になり、義母はハンカチで目元を拭う。そんな二人の姿に胸が苦しくなる。この時の私は、まだ実家が根本的におかしいとまで思っていなかった。それでも、結納金の事件に関しては、うちの両親が失礼なことは納得した。尽くして来いと娘には指示しておきながら、同時に義実家にはたかっている。私が結婚して困るなら、素直に直接言えばいいのに。すみません。両親が迷惑を。私、正樹さんと離婚します。里穂、それは。
ダメよ！
慌てる夫を遮るように優香が叫ぶ。
あなたは何も悪くないじゃない。それに、そんな家に出戻ったら何をされるか。
でも、これ以上迷惑をかけるわけには。里穂さん。戸惑う私の手を義母がぎゅっと握る。意地悪なことをして本当にごめんなさい。こんな私の言葉が信じられるかわからないけれど、あなたはとてもいいお嫁さんよ。この家に馴染もうと一生懸命働いてくれて、ひどいことをした私たちのことも許してくれる優しい人。そんな女性を追い出そうとした私たちが間違っていた。どうか正樹のお嫁さんでいてください。お母さん。義母の言葉と温かな体温になぜか涙がこぼれた。結局私は夫と婚姻生活を続けていくことになった。初めの頃はこんな私が夫と一緒にいていいのか不安で仕方なかった。でも夫はいつだって優しく、私も仕事をしているからと家事も家計も平等に分担。それどころか私の好きそうなお菓子を見つけると自分のお小遣いをためらいもなく使って買ってきてくれた。義両親も帰省するとたくさんのご馳走を用意してくれていた。もちろん家事も手伝うけれど、義母と優香と分担するから大した量はない。食事が終わったらこたつでトランプゲームをして、負けた人が近所のコンビニにデザートを買いに行く。実家ではいつも食事の片付けや風呂の準備に追われて、両親と弟が談笑しているのを目の端で眺めるしかなかった。なんだかとても嬉しくて、こういう風に遊ぶのは初めてで楽しい。とつぶやいたら、次の日、優香が人生ゲームやら、黒ひげ危機一髪やら、たくさんのパーティーゲームを買い込んできた。義父は無口で静かだけれど、私が美味しいと言ったデザートを帰省のたびにいつも用意してくれていた。義実家にいるときはいつも胸がポカポカして、 帰るときは無性に寂しくて、思わず涙が出てしまうこともあった。そんな私の頭を夫は何も言わず撫でてくれた。そんな日々が1年ほど過ぎた頃、私はようやく実の両親からの洗脳が解けた。私は静かに決意する。今度は私が両親と戦う番だ。ある週末、私は人手が足りないからと実家の店を手伝わされていた。もちろん娘だからという理由で無給扱い。ねえあんた、旦那の実家でちゃんとやってるの？皿を拭いている私の隣でスマホをいじっている母がボソボソとつぶやく。うん、頑張ってるよ。本当に？だってあちらのお母様、私たちに冷たいのよ。あんたが失礼なことしてるんじゃないの？そんなことないよ。お母さんは私にはとってもよくしてくれるよ。私の言葉に納得できないような顔をしながら、母が売り物の酒を煽る。最近ね、店の売り上げが良くないのよ。そう。短く返事をする。手伝いに来いと言った割には、店は閑古鳥状態。後継ぎだと大事にされてきた弟も、暇すぎてパチンコに通いまくっているらしい。それに最近、実家から義実家に金の無心が頻繁にあるというのを義両親から聞いている。もちろん、義両親には絶対にお金を渡さないでほしいと伝えている。おそらく母も、従順だったはずの私が裏切っているのを感づいているから呼び出したのだろう。もっと他に言うことはないの？とりあえず仕事中にお酒飲むのをやめたら？は？母の細い目がカッと見開く。あんた、結婚してから調子乗ってるわよね。金持ちに嫁に行ったからって、自分も偉くなったって勘違いしてるんじゃないの？そんなことないわ。じゃあなんで親である私を敬わないのよ、恩知らずが。あんたは逆立ちしたってブスでのろまなダメ人間なのは変わらないんだからな。まあまあ、母さん。興奮して酒をボタボタと床にこぼす母から、父がグラスを取り上げる。なあ、リホ。父さんたちお金がなくて困ってるんだよ。悪いんだけど、前みたいにお金を入れてくれないかな。私も塩らしく振る舞う。でも、私も自分の生活でいっぱいいっぱいで。そんなことないだろ？まさきくんはエリートだし、あちらのご両親だって資産家なんだから。でも、リコも父さんたちが路頭に迷ったら困るだろ？あちらのご両親に迷惑をかけるかもしれないし。父の物言いも表情も柔らかいけれど、要は脅しだ。ここまで焦らせれば十分だろう。じゃあ、この店の帳簿を貸してくれる？帳簿？私の提案に父が一瞬たじろぐ。具体的な数字を見せれば、優しいお母さんたちならきっと手を貸してくれるから、ね。わかったよ。ありがとうな、リホ。やっぱりお前はいい娘だよ。父が大きな手で私の頭を撫でる。昔はそれが誇らしかったけど、今は鳥肌を隠すために笑みを作る。そんな私たちを見て、母は不機嫌そうにふんと鼻を鳴らした。それから3ヶ月後。お前、騙したな？休日家でのんびり過ごしていた私の家に血相を変えた両親が飛び込んできた。税務署にチクりやがって、この裏切り者！玄関先で父が雄たけびを上げる。いつも笑顔で人を脅す父がこんなに取り乱した姿は初めて見た。母は爪をガリガリと噛みながら血走った目で私を睨みつけている。そう、私は預かった帳簿などを利用して彼らが売り上げで不正しているのを税務署に告発したのだ。前々から私は両親がレシートを切っていない場面をたびたび目にしていた。幼い頃は意味がわからなかったけれど、社会で働き始めてから、うすうす彼らが売り上げを低く報告するためにやっているのだと気づいた。案の定、預かった帳簿はめちゃくちゃだったから税務署に相談。でもこんなに早く税務署が踏み込んだということは、他のお客さんからも密告があったのかもしれない。 チクったなんて人聞きが悪いよ。おかしいところがあったから税務署に相談しに行っただけ。
とぼけんな。どうせあの上級国民どもから入れ知恵されたんだろ。
私たちは何もしていないわ。
あ？
第三者の声に両親がびくりと固まる。リビングから休みだった夫とたまたま遊びに来ていた義母、そして優香が現れた。
あんたら。
あなたたちの悪行は全部里穂さんが見つけて、どうしたらいいか自分で考えて行動したの。私たちはそれを見守っていただけ。
そんなはずはない。こいつは脳なしで、出来損ないで。
お姉さんは脳なしでも出来損ないでもない。それに気づけないあなたたちの方がずっと愚かよ。お母さん、優香ちゃん。私をかばってくれる二人の存在に思わず目が潤む。侮辱された両親は怒りで顔を真っ赤にさせる。
なんでお前ばっかりいい思いしてんだよ。リコのくせに。ふざけんな。
父が私を叩こうと振り上げた手を夫が淡々と掴む。自分の思うようにならないからって暴力ですか？まるで獣ですね。屈辱に父はうなり声を上げるけれど、父よりも一回り大きい夫に立ち向かう根性はないらしい。そんな父を見放した母が、プライドを捨てたように必死に私にすがりつく。リホ、目を覚ましな。こいつらは悪魔だよ。あんたを洗脳して、あんたの大事な家族をバラバラにしようとしてるんだよ。離婚して戻っておいで。今こそ家族で団結して頑張る時。戻らないよ。リホ。私のことをお金を稼ぐ道具としか思ってないくせに。私の家族は、私を尊重して大切にしてくれる夫と義両親と優香さんだけ。あなたたちは血が繋がっていても家族じゃない。そんな。これ以上ダダをこねるなら警察を呼ぶわよ。税務署が入った上に警察なんて、あの店もあなたたちもどうなるかしら。警察という単語に両親が顔を真っ青にしながら後ずさりする。追い打ちをかけるようにポケットの中からボイスレコーダーも取り出してみせた。万が一のために弁護士さんにも相談済みだから、今後は行動にも発言にも注意した方がいいよ。
やめろ。そんなことしたら俺たちがどうなるかわかるよな。絶対にやめろよ。
警察と弁護士のダブルパンチにパニックになった両親は、わけのわからないことを叫んで逃げ帰っていった。
不思議な脅しね。
優香が私の肩を抱きながら呆れたように笑った。その後、両親は何とか店を続けようと悪あがきしたみたいだけど、観光地にあるにもかかわらず、全く流行っていない店が立て直せるわけもなく、仕入れ先にもつけばかりして返済を滞り、倒産。父自身も借金まみれになって破産をした。もちろん、両親は私にお金を借りようとすがったり、脅したりしてきたけれど、一度弁護士を召喚したら寄りつかなくなった。仕入れ先は近隣のお店ばかりだったから居場所などなく、母の実家がある田舎へ逃げるように消えていった。そこで再起しようとお金を借りて店を構えようとしたみたいだけれど、破産した人間がまともな場所でお金を借りられるわけもなく、田舎に突然現れたよそ者が開いた大して安くも美味しくもない店が流行るわけもなく、一回だけやばい借金取りに追いかけられながら助けてと電話がかかってきたのを無視して以降、彼らの居場所はわからなくなった。それから数年後。優香ちゃん綺麗。花嫁の控え室で美しいドレスをまとう優香にうっとりする。
そうでしょ？
照れを隠すように胸を張る姿も彼女の輝きを引き立たせていた。よかったね、優香ちゃん。いっぱいいっぱい幸せになってね。
うん、ありがとう。
納屋に閉じ込められそうになったらすぐに連絡してくるのよ。私のブラックジョークに優香がお腹を抱えて笑う。そんな女子二人のやりとりを見ていた夫が苦笑いをする。 リホもすっかり優香の影響でガサツになって。
何よ、たくましくなったって言ってよ。ねえ、お姉ちゃんも、お兄ちゃんが浮気するようなことがあったらすぐ私に言ってよ。私が引っこ抜いてやるんだから。
おいおい、物騒なこと言うなよ。青い顔でキュッと内股になる夫を優香と二人で笑う。あの日、ウェディングドレスを着ていた私よりも、今の私の方がずっと幸せ。あの頃の純粋で何も知らなかった操り人形のような私よりも、ガサツでたくましい今の私の方がずっと好き。毎日更新される幸せな日々を、私を大切にしてくれる人たちと共に、大切に生きていきたいと思う。
I thought he'd come in muddy boots from the farm. My brother's wedding was held at a luxury hotel in Tokyo. However, the nouveau riche people from the new father's family were tired and trying to get along with the country family, but the atmosphere in the venue changed completely when a certain dish was served at the wedding. The one who took the lead role was, surprisingly, the farmer father. What is true luxury? The applause and murmurs couldn't stop at this painful turn of events. I'm Minami, 28 years old. I went to university in Tokyo, and I've been working here for 6 years now. I've been living in Tokyo for 10 years now. I think of myself as a complete city girl, but sometimes I slip into my rural Tohoku dialect. I work for a major literary company that sells everything from copy paper to high-end writing supplies, and I'm in the sales planning department. I'm not in sales, so I don't really get why they have to worry about numbers like quotas, but I'm having fun. I live in a 1DK rental apartment near the company. The bathroom and toilet are separate, and it gets a fair amount of sunlight. It's 7 minutes from the station, so it's more than enough for me. I don't have a boyfriend. Well, I did have one for a while, but it didn't last long. This is why there was a guy who would say things like, "You're from the countryside," and I was annoyed by that too, but the truth is that he was also from the countryside. I found out after we'd been dating for a while. I couldn't stand the fact that he was from the countryside himself, but he made fun of me by acting like he was born in Tokyo. Aren't you from the countryside too? What a lame guy. I was the one who got mad and broke up with him about a year ago. Yeah, I'm pretty. No, I'm quite strong-willed. Tokyo is a place where people from the countryside gather. And yet everyone acts like they're Tokyo horses and makes fun of young people who've just moved here, saying things like, "You're so arrogant." I really hated that. My family comes from a rice-growing area in Tohoku. My parents are farmers, and since I was little, I've always thought that rice is something you grow, not something you buy. That said, I had no intention of taking over the farm, and my parents understood that. In any case, I was just a stupid young man who dreamed of living in the city. But I love my hometown and my parents. There's no doubt about that. I have an older brother who is 2 years older than me, and even I think he is very talented. After graduating from a national university in Tokyo, he got a job at a megabank and is known by those around him as an elite banker. However, unlike me, who is strong-willed, he doesn't seem to have any real ambition for success at a young age, and he doesn't have the air of an elite at all. Unlike me, who has been fighting a lot since childhood, my brother is always smiling and saying things like, "If I come home injured from a fight, my parents will be sad." He was always the one who stopped me from fighting. I think my brother was quite popular with girls even when he was a student, but he didn't realize it at all, and sometimes he asked me to act as a go-between for him, but I always firmly refused. That's right, I'm quite a brother complex. Then my brother got a girlfriend. After hearing about the story, I was convinced that he was my girlfriend just because of that episode. My brother and his fiancée, Meyer, met on a warm evening at the end of winter. My brother, who works at a company, was walking through a park that he always passes through as a shortcut to his apartment when he saw a woman crouched down by a bench, talking to pigeons with a serious expression on her face. Apparently, there were more than 10 pigeons gathered around her. Maybe she likes pigeons. Thinking this, he was about to pass by when the woman said in a panic, "Sorry, we're out of bread crusts. These are my dinner, so no." Quote. My brother stopped in his tracks and asked, "Excuse me, are you okay?" The pigeons that had gathered around the woman apparently ran away. Oh no! I was caught fighting with the pigeons. Saying this, she stood up with a slightly embarrassed smile. That was Mireille. Apparently, she had gotten some bread crusts at a bakery on her way home from work, and when she casually gave a piece to a pigeon she saw in the park, the pigeons gathered around her and she was about to panic. It's true that pigeons gathering around you can be scary. Really? I thought they were going to steal my dinner. Are you having bread for dinner? I usually make it, but today I just happened to be at that bakery. It's delicious, isn't it? I like the curry bread and the bread with walnuts. Oh, me too. Would you like to buy a drink from the vending machine over there and eat it here with me? Oh, is that okay? And then the two of them sat side by side on a bench in the dark park and ate the bread. It was still cold. What's that? What are a grown man and woman doing? Well, the one she bought was one serving, so it wasn't enough. After that, the two of them went to an izakaya. I thought he was pretty cool for my brother. My brother introduced me to Mi-san one weekend afternoon. We met at a cafe in Tokyo and sat down, feeling a little nervous. My first impression was that she had a really nice smile. She was elegant and calm, but also a little naive and not at all pretentious. Huh? I thought maybe these two were similar. That alone was enough to make me like her more. Mireille is 29 years old, 1 year older than me and 1 year younger than my brother. She works for a publishing company and currently lives alone in her family home in Tokyo. When the topic of her family home came up in our conversation, Mireille suddenly asked, "Hey Minami, what kind of image do you have of a nouveau riche?" Nouveau riche? Someone who wears a lot of gold. Like someone who suddenly became rich and doesn't know how to spend it. Quote. When I answered that, Mireille clapped her hands and said, "That's right." Oh, are my parents like that too? No. I don't think the word nouveau riche is used in a positive sense. Quote. What does it mean to call your parents nouveau riche? My parents are from the mountains of Tohoku, and I think it's great that they both came to Tokyo to help others and became successful, but once they became successful, they started to look down on the countryside. Mireille's parents are so-called nouveau riche, having succeeded in real estate ventures such as solar power generation and selling refurbished used goods. Recently, they have been living a flashy lifestyle, reselling one-room apartments in Tokyo and investing in high-rise apartments. They have been surrounded by the real thing, so they often say things like, "My daughter's wedding and her partner have to be the real thing," and they are apparently people who are particular about appearances. Quote. They live in a high-rise apartment building, but they look like they've been living in Edo for generations, Mireille says with a wry smile. At that, her brother makes a silly retort. Quote, "But you know, Edo. People have this image of high-rise apartments, don't they? They seem like they're from a downtown area, or something." Well, that's certainly the image, but when I told Mireille that I was from Tohoku, which is next door to her parents, she got worried. She was worried that her parents would be rude to me about my kanji. Oh, wait, we've already talked about meeting her parents. But now that I think about it, that's what it means to accommodate me. I'm thinking of taking Mirai to my parents' house during the open holidays first. Since we're here, why don't you come with us, Minami? I don't really understand why we're so rude though. By the way, I didn't go back to my hometown for New Year's this year. It would be reassuring if Mi-san was with me. That's what Mi-Ray said, and I didn't really know what was so special about it, but we decided to go to my parents' house together since it was a special occasion. The three of us had slightly different holidays for Oben, so I ended up going back to my hometown early and going home alone. I'll go ahead and warm up the seat. Instead of warming up the seat, Minami seems like he'll destroy it. What's that? He's been known for being violent since he was little. Wow, you're saying that in front of Mi-Ray? Seeing my brother and I interacting like that, I can see how close our brothers really are. I'm the only child, so I'm jealous. Mi-san seems to be having fun. Day 2, I was relaxing on the veranda of my parents' house with our cat when I got a line message from my brother. I'm going home on the Shinkansen today, so if you don't mind, could you come and pick me up at the station? I sent a stamp saying, okay, and got in the car and headed to the station. The two of them came out of the Shinkansen ticket gate dressed casually for summer, but Meyer was wearing a city-style dress and a straw hat, giving off the impression of a young Tokyo lady. Minami-san, long time no see. Welcome. Meyer was a little nervous, but I was relieved when Minami-san greeted me. Saying this, my brother and Meyer got into the minivan that I had driven. As we drove to my parents' house, Meyer looked at the rice fields that spread out outside the window and exclaimed, "Wow, rice fields as far as the eye can see. This kind of scenery really goes on forever, huh?" Yeah, there are a lot of houses that grow rice. The air is lived in too. It's completely different from the air in Tokyo. To be honest, I'm used to seeing this view, but when someone is moved like this, I feel a little proud. When we arrived at my parents' house, my parents were already at the front door, and my father greeted the two of them with a big smile, saying, "Hey, you're here." My father and I are wearing matching straw hats. When my brother said that, my father said, "I'm sorry about that," and everyone laughed. Mirai was given a warm welcome at her family home. Mirai bit into a freshly picked tomato on the spot and was impressed by how sweet it was, and she devoured the edamame her father had grown, saying that it was completely different from the ones sold in stores. They were truly a warm family. Soto grew up in such a wonderful place. Hearing her say that while smiling at my brother made me realize once again, I really do like this guy. That evening, while munching on a watermelon on the veranda of our house, my brother said quietly, "Come to think of it, I went to visit Mirai's family last week to say hello. How is it?" Well, they welcomed me, but they seemed a little taken aback when I asked them about our family. About our family? I'm sorry. Mirai bowed her head while holding the watermelon in her hand. My parents are always rude. They say things like, "We won't let our daughter marry a farmer. Your title as a banker is impressive, but your family is a farming family in Tohoku, so you're just a country bumpkin, right? And what else was it? Even though you work in Tokyo, you're still not in the red, right? That's funny. It's annoying that you won't marry me, but everything else is pretty much right. Why are you laughing, big brother? Why aren't you angry?" I don't want to get angry and break up. Your parents will understand eventually. You're too carefree. You're too optimistic. You're too naive. Those are some of my brother's good points, but I was so angry and upset that I started crying even though he didn't say anything to me. I'm really sorry. My father and mother would say such terrible things. Mireille also had tears in her eyes. If I had to choose between my parents and soda, I would choose soda. Mireille said that firmly. But my brother said that was no good. I don't want MI to have to make such a sad choice. I'm fine. If Meyer lives happily, her parents will eventually understand. It seems that this brother never fights or gives up on Meyer. Thinking back, he has never fought with a smile on his face since then, but things have been going his way. Still, marriage is a major event in life. It's completely different from the petty fights he had as a child. That night, I secretly told my father about Meyer's family home. My father didn't seem particularly angry at all. He said that people from the city probably wouldn't notice. My brother and Meyer's wedding was to be held at a famous hotel in Tokyo. The ceremony itself was supposed to be simple, but somehow the wedding ended up being extravagantly elaborate. Hey, this isn't your brother's wedding, is it? Well, Meyer's parents are really excited about it. Meyer doesn't like it, but I don't really care. When I got angry and said that if he kept saying indecisive things like that, he would lose his love for Meyer, my brother firmly said that he wouldn't. Yes, is that so? I'm sorry I'm only here for a short time, but most things don't matter to me except for the really important things, my brother said with a smile. My brother and Mireille are basically leading the wedding preparations, but I'm also helping out a little with organizing the documents and putting on the clothes. During that time, I had the opportunity to meet Mireille's parents several times. I wanted to see their faces, but I didn't want to. But I couldn't ignore them since we'd be related to Toishi in the future. Oh, there's a girl like this. My mother suddenly said that. What's this like? She said it smugly, right in front of her. Her father said, don't be mean to her, MI. If Mireille is being mean to, isn't it because of your parents? I like Mireille, so I wouldn't be mean to her. And as expected, or even more so, they were all full-on narcissists. Well, I guess the sex scenes have to be at least this high. If my father said that, his daughter grew up surrounded by the real thing. Of course. The food is also prepared by Chef Kawajiri of the Michelin-starred restaurant Maison Lumière, so the guests will be amazed, my mother said enthusiastically. Apparently, Maison Lumière is a French restaurant in Tokyo that is difficult to book into, and is also famous for being a favorite of celebrities. I've heard the name on TV, but of course I've never mentioned it. People from the countryside might not know, but this is the real deal in Tokyo. When Mireille's mother said that, I was a little annoyed for a moment. But I followed my brother's example and kept quiet and laughed it off. I've grown up a little too. That night, I called my father back home. Dad, heroine, I heard that they're serving food from some amazing restaurant. Have you ever heard of Maison Lumière? Oh, yeah, that's what I heard. It's got a Michelin star, right? The head chef, Kawajiri, is a very particular person. Well, I'm sure the food there will be fine. What's going on? You're praising it a lot. My brother and my father. Why was this happening? I thought it was silly of me to be the only one getting angry, but my father had a reason for praising the restaurant's food. The wedding was held in the chapel of a luxury hotel in Tokyo. Mirai looked absolutely beautiful walking down the aisle. Seeing my brother tear up in his gorgeous dress, I almost started crying too. There were 3 rows of people, so the atmosphere was very glamorous, but the moment my brother and Mirai's hands gently touched, all illusions disappeared and it was as if a space had been created just for the 2 of them. When they exchanged their vows, my brother choked up a little and there was laughter, but that was also just like them. Watching them exchange rings amidst applause, I thought to myself, I'm so glad I chose this person, big brother. The venue at the luxury hotel had a luxurious atmosphere with live classical music. The lighting and sound were both amazing. As expected of a nouveau riche production. My parents and a relative's child also arrived, and although they were a little nervous because it was a completely different experience than usual, they sat down properly. Among the guests on the other side, I could hear voices saying things like, as they glanced at the unfamiliar-looking group. Hey, that's the relative of Hanamuko, the farmer. Their outfits don't look out of place at all. I thought they'd come in muddy boots, but they're wearing proper shoes. Wow! People from the fields are joining us in a fancy urban garden. They must be related to my nouveau riche parents. I bit my lip and took a deep breath inwardly. Hold on. Today's main characters are my brother and Mirai. Here comes a shockingly smelly farmer from the countryside, the lowest rung of society. I turned around at the familiar voice, and it was my father who had said it. That was too much. Don't mess with me, you old man. Just as my father and I were about to yell at him, my father's loud laughter echoed through the venue. Tomon really doesn't get it. That calm laughter took the minds of the entire group and they became adults. My mother, who was sitting next to me, gently held my hand, still feeling queasy, and said, "It's okay," and sighed. I was practically treated like a wild horse. Before long, the meal began and the course meal was served. The first thing served was a potage of fresh onions with the aroma of truffles, and the guests all started eating it at once. What is this? It's too sweet. Is this what onions taste like? Next, a risotto of green asparagus and edamame from a single farm was served. Served with Parmesan foam. Oh, this risotto is also incredibly delicious. A colorful vegetable jelly. By the time it arrived at the table with the consommé Gillette, the atmosphere in the venue had completely changed. What's in this vegetable tree? I can't believe it. The guests were all gushing over the wonderfulness of the food. Actually, I might have been the one who was secretly gushing the most in the venue. Tannin isn't my house. Wait. If Dad was going to praise it late at night, it must have been the food there. What did you think he was going to say? That's what it was all about. Even the nouveau riche parents who had looked down on the farming family up until then couldn't stop holding their spoons and began to murmur. This dish is amazing. Isn't Lumiere really going all out? The strength of the ingredients is amazing, not to be outdone by the sauce. Next was the roasted Japanese beef fillet. Served with a simple red wine risotto. Served with seasonal tomatoes, tangerine compote and basil jelly. Each dish was so delicious that the atmosphere in the venue suddenly began to change as many people exclaimed. The nouveau riche parents also seemed very pleased. Normally, I would have thought that the new father wouldn't be able to eat much of the food at a wedding reception, but Mirai was smiling at her brother sitting next to her and eating the food with relish. In the midst of all this, the host's voice rang out. Now, I would like to hear a few words from the head chef who prepared today's meal. The head chef, Chef Kawajiri, appeared on stage, dressed in a white kimono. Amidst applause, he stood in front of the microphone, gave a polite introduction, and began speaking in a calm voice. I would like to offer my heartfelt congratulations to everyone. And as a chef, there is no greater joy than if you are enjoying my food. Today, through a certain connection, I have been able to be involved in a special farm for me as well. As the venue became noisy, the image on the screen changed. What was projected was a view of a farm under a blue sky. A middle-aged man in his work clothes, smiling, with a beautifully maintained field in the background. Dad? I couldn't help but exclaim. My mother, who was sitting next to me, quietly raised her index finger in front of her lips. I have been investing in a single farm for 10 years now. Our relationship has gone beyond that of chef and producer, and now it's more like that of friends. Today is my friend's son's special day, so even though I'm working behind the scenes, I felt compelled to say a few words of congratulations, so I took the opportunity to say hello. The head chef suddenly narrowed his eyes and looked around the venue. All of the ingredients we are serving today, including the new onions, edamame, tomatoes, and the special blend, were all sourced from a single farm. Mr. Tano's crops are an essential part of my cooking. I would like to introduce them here with my heartfelt gratitude and background. The nouveau riche parents and their associates were frozen in place, staring at the screen. My father smiled gently on the screen and said only one thing quietly. You don't get it, Gomon. Real luxury grows from the soil. Wait, isn't that the groom on the screen, the old man sitting over there? He was the producer of these vegetables and rice. Just like the murmurs that ran through the room. Amidst all this, a boy from the Tan family's relatives had an indescribable look of pride on his face. My father finally said only one thing. Look. Real luxury. It grows in places you can't see. At that moment, the guests spontaneously burst into applause. The nouveau riche parents and their associates were all grim-faced, but as expected of nouveau riche parents who had made their fortune on their own, they were quick to move on. Man, I didn't know they ran such a wonderful farm. I look forward to working with you for many more years to come. I said that as I snuggled up to my father and mother. If I had been a cat, I would have been swatting my pubic hair in response to my irritated hands, but my mother's hands were more effective than my trip. Both my mother and I smiled and responded like adults. My old father was happy. I'm sure all the spectators at the game thought it was a good game of fatigue. But at the end of the game of fatigue, a big bomb was dropped. It was time for the finale, when Masuda presented his parents with a bouquet of flowers. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for raising me. I'm going to be a farmer's wife. That's what Mireille said as she presented her parents with a gorgeous bouquet of flowers. Huh? It must have come as a complete surprise to my parents. Well, me too. The first day I visited Soda's family home, I thought to myself, I want to live in a place like this. Wait a minute. Living under the wide sky, surrounded by a warm family, eating rice and vegetables that we grew ourselves. That's the true wealth I've dreamed of since I was little. Those words elicited a huge round of applause from the relatives' table at my house, and applause and cheers erupted from the other tables as well. No, I won't forgive you. How dare you? What are you complaining about in life in Tokyo? I said to my parents, who seemed to be clinging to their daughter. Mireille says she likes the rice paddies more than the high-rise apartment building. If you really want your daughter to be happy, shouldn't you acknowledge that? My parents slumped their shoulders and scolded themselves a little. Thank you, Minami. My older brother, Soda, smiled while holding back tears. And even though my mother and I hadn't discussed it, we were all speaking in unison. Welcome, Ray said, smiling shyly and nodding. I patted my brother on the shoulder and said quietly, "You've got a good wife, aren't you, big brother?" My brother winked back at me clumsily. Ah, I'm glad it's my brother's sister after all. I heard later that the only people my parents invited to that exhaustion garden were people they knew from Tokyo. Apparently, they hadn't invited any relatives from their hometown. I thought that was really lonely. Anyway, I was a little angry. My brother knew that my father had an exclusive contract with a famous restaurant in Tokyo, and that he had been friends with the chef of that restaurant for 10 years, and that he had told my parents through Misa and set up the food at the Taisetsuen, but he had kept all of this a secret from me. My mother told me that I couldn't lie, that it would show on my face, and that I would fight right away, so I had no choice but to keep quiet. That's why they asked me to ask Chef Kawajiri. After all, he knows everything about running the farm and who we do business with. Oh, I haven't thought about running my family's business since I moved to Tokyo. I'm so sorry. So I was disappointed in myself, but I think it was a blessing to be reminded of the good things about my hometown. My brother and Misa returned from their honeymoon. Their honeymoon was in the Provence region of southern France. How is it? When asked if she visited any wineries, Meyer answered with a big smile, "Yeah. We did that too. I spent all my time looking at the fields and the market. The vegetables sold at the local market were so colorful and beautiful. We visited the market on our honeymoon. Yeah. The market was the best." Quote. My brother, who was listening to the conversation next to me, laughed a little shyly, and before I knew it, he was having a lively conversation in French with Meyer, the farmer. I guess I was the only one who wasn't listening. Come to think of it, Meyer works at a publishing company that handles children's books. I was thinking about that and wondering, when Meyer said, "Yes." The souvenirs she gave Minami were a small cloth bag filled with lavender and dried herbs, and a kitchen cloth with a hand-drawn picture of a no-woman. I found them in a village in Provence. They were simple and cute, and somehow seemed like a perfect fit for Minami, so thank you. But am I really that simple? I've been living in Tokyo for 10 years. I knew no one would say I was a flashy, urbane adult woman, but my brother and Mireille looked at each other and said, "You're a simple, honest, and cute little sister." I'm a little embarrassed that I'm quick to pick fights. We went almost at the same time. The time the three of us spent laughing together was somehow very happy. About half a year after that exhaustion incident, my brother and Mireille really did move near my parents' house. What's more, my brother had quit his job at the bank where he worked and was said to be sure to get promoted. I'm not really interested in promotion or anything like that. Living happily with Mireille is more important. Most things other than the really important things don't matter. I remembered what my brother had said before. My brother apparently plans to take over our father's farm someday, but he wanted to use his skills to contribute to local agriculture and the community, so he changed jobs to work at a financial institution. Well, my father is still going strong too. He currently works as a community-based financial advisor, supporting farmers and self-employed individuals with their finances and business plans. He's also highly trusted by the townspeople because he can use the knowledge he gained at a major bank. On the other hand, Mireille was initially complaining about muscle pain from weeding, but now she's completely used to the fields and has even started helping out at a small farmer's market. Mirei's parents were apparently quite shocked at first, but they've gradually changed their minds after seeing how happy their daughter is. Recently, they've even started talking about setting up a section for brain products on their mail order website, but I wonder what that means. Maybe they haven't changed much. But I probably won't be seeing those parents again for a while. Then one day, when I went back to my hometown for the first time in a while and dropped by the farmer's market at Mirei's invitation, I saw my ex-boyfriend, whom I had broken up with a while ago. He was the man who used to make fun of country people even though he was also from Tohoku. He was wearing a cap and a work sergeant, and he looked a little more toned than before, tanned. 2 light trucks were loaded with lots of local vegetables. My parents were always nagging me about brains, so now I'm growing vegetables even though I look like this. Vegetables are pretty cute when you try them. When he said that and smiled shyly, my heart ached a little. Huh? Even though he used to make fun of the countryside so much. When I said that in a deliberately sarcastic tone, he started drawing his head. No, it's embarrassing. Calling your hometown stupid is the same as calling yourself stupid. I never thought he'd say something like that. Maybe he's grown up a little. Try some of the vegetables I grow next time. Sure. I'm a bit picky about the taste of vegetables. They grow some really good vegetables in the south. I have to work hard too. On the way home, I laughed with my ex. When I looked up at the clock, the sky seemed really high. It seems like a nice breeze is blowing right now. My brother and his wife, my parents, Lisanne, and my ex-boyfriend have all made their own choices and are all looking forward to life. As for me, I plan to continue living in Tokyo for a while longer, but just thinking that I have a place to come back to if something big happens makes my heart feel a little lighter. It's okay to stop being picky after all.
「高卒のお前には席はない。立って食え。」飲み会場所の居酒屋に、調子に乗った課長の私を罵倒する声が。あと今日はお前の歓迎会と反省会を兼ねてるから、立ったまま挨拶と謝罪をしろよ。うちの部署のルールなんだけど、英語でしろよ。高卒には無理か。どうしても人前で私に恥をかかせたいのだろう。上司はコネ入社の社長令嬢と一緒に私を見下すことを楽しんでいた。しかし、私には反撃ののろしが。私はキミコ。食品メーカーに勤める33歳だ。未だ独身の私を同僚たちは実家暮らしのキミコッティと冗談半分で呼ぶ。いやいや、私だって一人暮らしを10年以上してきたわよ。去年、海外出張から帰国した父親と暮らしたくて、久しぶりに実家に戻ったのだ。しかし、家賃がかからず、母親に家事をやってもらうのはありがたいのだが、なんとなく結婚をせかされているような気がしてならないのも事実。まあ、30を過ぎた娘が心配なのもわからなくはない。そんな私に最近、朗報があった。入社10年目にして、かねてより希望していた商品企画部配属が決まったのだ。希望が叶ったことを両親は喜んでくれたのだが、同時に孫の顔を見るのが遠のいたと落胆もしていた。商品企画部に配属された1日目。髪を後ろで一つ縛りにし、新調した紺色のスーツに身を包み出社した私。歓迎されるかと思いきや、初日から直属上司と社長令嬢の洗礼を受けることになるとは。おはようございます。今日からよろしくお願いします。初心に戻り、私は課長に深く頭を下げた。よろしく。まさか高卒の岡田くんが来るとはな。前途多難だな。 私は確かに高卒ですが、やる気だけはあって。課長の言葉に一瞬ひるんだが、私は胸に手を当ててやる気を示した。やる気は認めるよ。けど、その前に、岡田くんにお願いしたいことがあるんだが。はい。何でもお申し付けください。高卒の君に、社長直々の命令だ。君はお嬢様のひとみさんを知ってるよね。はい、もちろん存じてます。ひとみさんが何か？ひとみさんが今日からうちの部署で働くことになった。それで社長は、君をお嬢様の教育係に任命している。え？これは、コネ入社ってことだろう。自分の会社にも例外なくあるんだ。寝耳に水の話に固まる私。確か10歳ほど私より若いと記憶している社長の娘ひとみさん。わがままで生意気で社員を顎で使うというまことしやかな噂があるのだ。私は嫌な予感がした。誤解するなよ。教育係といっても高卒のお前はただのパシリだからな。はい、わかりました。さっきから高卒を連呼する課長にもやっとしたが愛想笑いをする私。初日早々揉めるのはごめんだ。社長がどんな意図で私を指名したかわからないが、期間限定だと聞いた。1ヶ月我慢すればいいのだ。
おはようございます。課長、この人が岡田さんなの？おばさんじゃん。マジありえないんだけど。
甲高い声とともに入ってきた社長令嬢。始業時間を5分過ぎている。彼女は茶髪のカールを人差し指でくるくると回しながら私のそばに近づいてきた。お気を悪くしたら申し訳ありません。残念ながらこれが岡田です。うちの部署で唯一の高卒者がお嬢様の教育係など申し訳ないのですが。
どうして低学歴で無能な人に教えられなきゃいけないの？最低。
教育係というのは名ばかりです。どうぞ岡田を足に使ってください。おい、岡田。お前高卒でも免許は持ってるよな。持ってますが。
課長、いいアイデア。高卒なんて商品企画なんか無理だものね。
社長令嬢は私を一別すると大げさに手を叩いて女性とは思えない下品な笑いをした。私はこんな悔しい思いをするために商品企画部を希望したのではない。二人の屈辱的な言葉に涙が滲んだが、自分の仕事を全うしようとひとみさんに向き直った。ひとみさん、社長命令である以上、私はあなたの教育係を自分なりに務めさせていただきます。まずはここの社員である以上、身なりと言葉遣いに気をつけてください。
は？
もう学生ではないんですよ。そのブラウスは胸元が開きすぎです。その派手な爪も、ピアスもやめてください。会社にとって学歴ではなく一般常識が必要です。私は間違ったことを言ってないと思った。思ったのだが、この一言が彼らの性根の悪さに火をつけた。
あんた、何様のつもりよ。私が誰だか分かっているの？
はい、もちろん。
だったら、私に意見したらどうなるか分かるでしょ？パパに言ってクビにだってできるのよ。
黙っていれば小顔で可愛いのに、目をつり上げ、鼻の穴を膨らませて激高する令嬢。岡田、今すぐひとみさんに謝れ。お前高卒のくせに生意気なんだよ。この部署は将来を期待された有能な人材しか入れないんだ。内山課長も令嬢に負けないくらいの不細工な顔で私に迫ってきた。
まったく高卒のくせに。私は次期社長になるのよ。そこを覚えときなさいよ。高卒はこれだから嫌なんだよ。
お嬢様、私が後でよく言って聞かせますから、お怒りを鎮めてください。高卒と繰り返す二人に呆れる私。課長、そろそろ会議の時間です。これは今日の資料です。あと、ちなみに僕も高卒ですが。嫌味を言われる私を救うように後ろから声がした。先輩、渡辺係長だ。イケメンの長身で社内一のモテ男。私も憧れている存在だ。さらに、 彼は社長から期待されている有望株で、彼が企画したものが次々に商品化されている。この会社のエースだと言っても過言ではない。もうそんな時間か。ありがとう、渡辺くん。君は帰国子女の高卒じゃないか。同じ高卒でも月とすっぽん、天と地の差があるよな。フォローをしてくれた渡辺さんと私を比べ、さらに馬鹿にしてくる課長。入社して10年、一番腹が立った日だった。岡田さん、気にすることないよ。渡辺係長の一言がなければどうなっていたことか。翌週、商品企画会議のある日。岡田、今日の資料はまだか？朝から課長のダミ声が部屋に響き渡る。私は耳を覆いたくなった。もうすでに準備してあります。会議室の机に置いておきました。は？ないから言ってるんだよ。え？今度は耳を疑った。昨日、ひとみさんと一緒にコピーしたはずだ。彼女はほとんど文句を言っていただけだが。
ペーパーレスの時代なのよ。こんなのめんどくさい。
悪態をつきながらコピーする彼女。大事な企画なの、すべてデータ管理するのも危ないのよ。手が汚れるから嫌だと拒んだ彼女の付け詰めは相変わらず派手だった。
おはようございます。
噂をすれば令状の重役出勤だ。始業時間を15分も過ぎている。あなた、何時だと思っているの？遅刻よ。
うるさいなぁ。早出早起きができるババアは黙れ。
大きなあくびをしながら自席に座った。まったく、ひとみさん、朝一番で資料を机に置いておくようにお願いしてあったでしょ？
は？知らない。そんなこと聞いてない。
え？
ああ、もしかしてあれのこと？シュレッダーにかけちゃったわ。
え？
岡田さん昨日言ったじゃないですか。いらない資料はすぐにシュレッダーにかけろって。
何を言ってるの？あの資料は今日の会議に必要だったのよ。
間違えちゃったかも。
わざとだ。わざとに違いない。口をへの字に曲げ、鼻で笑った彼女。今日までの教育的指導に対する私への嫌がらせだろう。岡田、お前は資料も準備できないのか？しかもお嬢様に責任転嫁しやがって。怒鳴り散らす課長。
だから、こんな高卒底辺社員なんて早くクビにすればよかったのよね。
課長の隣でほくそ笑んでいる瞳。その爪をひっぺがして、つけまつげをむしり取ってやりたいと思った私。会議は明日に延期だ。むしゃくしゃするな。今夜は飲みに行くぞ。全員参加するように。課長は半ば脅迫するように言った。岡田も必ず参加しろよ。お前の歓迎会だからな。反省会も兼ねてるけど。よほど私のことが嫌いなのか、肉々しげに私を睨みつけていった。
はーい、飲み会楽しみにしてます。課長、私、このおばさん大嫌いなの。私は歓迎してないからね。反省させちゃうね。
隣で瞳が薄ら笑いを浮かべていた。昼休み、食事が喉を通らず、社員食堂に行くのをやめ、私は休憩室で甘いコーヒーを飲んだ。それは疲れた脳と煮えたぎる腹を癒し、理不尽な言いがかりにどう対処するか考える時間をくれた。岡田さん、お疲れ様です。ちょっといいですか？現れたのは憧れの渡辺先輩。隣に座ってブラックコーヒーを飲む渡辺先輩は、私にいろんなことを教えてくれた。その情報は飲み会に行く元気をくれた。課長とコネ入社の社長令嬢瞳への反撃ののろしだ。私は心を決めコーヒーを飲み干した。高卒のお前には席はない。立って食え。飲み会場所の居酒屋に調子に乗った課長の声が。はい、わかりました。あと今日はお前の歓迎会と反省会を兼ねてるから、立ったまま挨拶と謝罪をしろよ。え？うちの部署のルールなんだけど、英語でしろよ。
高卒には無理か。
人前で恥をかかせたいのだろう。課長は私に英語で挨拶と謝罪をするように強制した。はい、わかりました。私は座敷に座っている同僚に軽く頭を下げ、流暢に英語でスピーチした。
え？
と課長。
なんで？
とひとみ。課長もひとみさんもご存知なかったんですか？岡田さんは僕と同じアメリカの高校卒業で帰国子女ですよ。渡辺先輩はそう言って拍手してくれた。同僚たちも続けて拍手。
はぁ？
ハモる二人の顔が面白い。苦虫を噛みつぶしたような顔だ。そういえば、課長もアメリカ留学していたんですよね。
ほんの少しだけどな。
じゃあ、メニューを英語で注文してもらえますか？
はぁ？いいよ、してやるよ。
では、鶏の唐揚げと枝豆と冷ややっこをお願いします。私は情けで一番簡単なメニューを言った。言ったつもりだが、課長の英語力は想像を超えてきた。
すいません。スクエアホワイトとグリーンピース、あと、フライドバードをお願いします。
店のスタッフにしどろもどろで注文する課長。白くて四角いもの、緑の豆。鶏の唐揚げってまんま鶏だ。普段から俺は大卒のエリートだと自慢していたくせに。聞いて呆れる。私もその場にいたみんなも大爆笑した。
お前ら、笑うんじゃない。おい、岡田、瞳お嬢様のグラスが空になってるじゃないか。お酌しろよ。まったく気が利かないやつだ。だから高卒の高慢ちきな女は使えないんだよ。
笑われたのがよほど悔しかったのだろう。課長は私を女呼ばわりしている。私一人を恥ずかしめたつもりだろうが、女子社員からのブーイングが激しくなった。すいません。課長に立って食えと言われているので動けません。私は毅然と答えた。
どうして岡田くんは立って食えと言われたんですか？
その時、私の声が聞こえたのか、質問しながら襖を開ける人物が登場した。
社長、どうしてここに？パパ？何の用？
慌てる課長と瞳。
実は大事な話があるからと渡辺くんに呼ばれてね。それより先に岡田くんはなぜ立っているんだね？
社長は優しく私に聞いてくれた。高卒だからです。高卒のお前には席がないので立って食えと命令されました。ありのまま答えると、社長はゆっくりと低い声で課長に言った。
だったら君にも席がないんだね。君も高卒だろ？君もそんな上座にあぐらなんて書いてないで立って食べなさい。
課長は顔面蒼白になり、その場に直立不動になった。社長の言葉に驚き、そこにいるすべての人が顔を見合わせる結果になった。私は恐る恐る社長に伝える。お言葉ですが、社長。課長はエリート大学を首席で卒業し、前社長に請われて入社したと聞いているんですが。
内山くん、嘘はいかんよ。部下の信頼をなくすよ。面接したのは私だ。前社長、つまり父親は不採用としたんだ。すいません。で、一度は不採用になった君が泣きついてきたので、中途採用したのは専務だ。すいません。感謝しています。
学歴詐称がバレて小さくなる課長。
だから鶏の唐揚げを英語で言えなかったのね。マジウケるんですけど、瞳騙されちゃったかも。
令嬢瞳が大笑いし、どさくさに紛れて渡辺先輩の腕に自分の腕を絡ませている。間髪入れずに振りほどく渡辺先輩。そして言葉を続けた。瞳さん、課長に騙されているのはそれだけではありませんよ。
どういう意味？
今夜、社長をここにお呼びしたのは他でもありません。このボイスレコーダーの音声を聞いてください。 被害を受けた人たちが各々録音したものをシェアしてくれたんです。渡辺先輩は武器、元井、手のひらサイズのボイスレコーダーを胸ポケットから出し、みんなに聞こえるように真ん中に座り、再生ボタンを押した。固唾を飲んで耳を傾ける社長とみんな。お前何度言ったらわかるんだよ。俺を誰だと思っている。俺が売れる商品を企画していたおかげで、お前たちは仕事があって給料がもらえるんだろうがよ。これは工場勤務の若手社員に言った課長の言葉です。次はこれです。大した仕事もしていないくせにお腹は減るんだね。食べ終わったら早くどいてくれるかな。あんたら給料泥棒なんだから。これは課長の嫌がらせ発言です。そしてこれは広報部の女子社員に対しての言葉です。ねえ、ようこちゃん、最近綺麗になったね。俺、妻と別居中なんだよね。もしよかったらうちに来る？冗談じゃないよ。本気だよ。ずっと君みたいな子タイプだったんだ。大好きだよ。ピッ。渡辺先輩がボイスレコーダーの一時停止ボタンを押すと、みんなからひどいだのと悲鳴が上がった。課長の周りにいた社員はずりずりと後ずさり課長から離れる。立ったままの姿勢の私の全身に鳥肌が立った。サブイボだ。課長に英語ではなんて言うかと問えば、チキンスキンと言うだろう。いや、バードスキンか？知らんけど。これは私の声ではありません。渡辺くん、これが、僕の声だという証拠はあるのかね？この後に及んで課長は白を切るつもりだ。どうなんだね、渡辺くん。社長は課長と渡辺先輩の顔を交互に見ながら真実の答えを待っている。はつらつとした顔で課長の罪を暴く渡辺先輩。ブルブルと足元が震えている肝男課長。どっちが本当のことを言っているのか、姿を見れば一目瞭然なのだが、社長は首をかしげていた。渡辺先輩はにやりと笑い、もう一度再生ボタンを押した。高卒のお前には席はない。立って食え。すいません。スクエアホワイトとグリーンピース、あとフライドバードをお願いします。これは今夜の課長の声です。全く同じ声だと思うのですが、ここにいる全員が証人です。渡辺先輩がドヤ顔で言うと、全員が間違いないとうなずいた。思い出し笑いだろうか、ちょうど追加注文を取りに来た店のスタッフの肩もクックと揺れている。もう言い逃れはできないと思うが、私は課長にとどめの一発を食らわせた。調査の結果、あなたは社員への嫌がらせ、自らの学歴詐称をしていた最低な上司だということが判明しました。このことを社長に訴えます。観念したのかうなだれる課長。内山くん、残念だが。ボイスレコーダーを証拠品として渡辺先輩から受け取ろうと社長が手を伸ばす。瞬間、違う山が爆発した。
私のことも騙してたのね。好きなのは私だけって言ったのに、広報部の陽子も口説いてたんだ。
爆発した山は令状瞳だった。付け爪した指で今にも課長の顔を引っかきそうな勢いだった。彼女にとっては課長の学歴詐称よりも他のことの浮気の方がショックだったらしい。絶対に別れたくないと泣く令状瞳にドン引きする私たち。彼女の趣味を疑う。そのことは一番父親が分かっていたらしく、娘の叱り方に現れていた。瞳、よりによってなんでこんな男を好きになるんだ。パパはお前をそんな子に育てた覚えはないぞ。課長の処分はこれから役員会議で検討します。そう言い残し、社長は泣きじゃくる娘を連れて店を出て行った。それを遠目で見つめ、酒を煽る課長。カオスだった。後日、課長の処分が下され、離島の関連会社の工場に左遷となった。同時に奥さんにも愛想をつかされ、離婚を言い渡されたと聞く。まあ、今までのこの男の悪事を考えれば当たり前の流れだ。が、ここでまさかのことが起きる。たで食う虫も好き好きなのか、 令嬢瞳は課長を追いかけて離島へ行ったというではないか。親子ほど年が離れているものの、課長と再婚する運びとなったらしい。もちろん社長は大激怒。もう娘でも何でもないから勝手にしろと縁を切ったとか。プライドだけは高い二人。狭い田舎町で悪目立ちしてるんだろうな。せいぜい仲良くやってってほしい。一方、私は立って食えと理不尽なことを言われたのをきっかけに、片手で食べられるワンハンドフードについて考えることができた。ワンハンドフードとは、チュロスやクレープ、肉まんや串団子、観光地やテーマパークで気軽に食べられ、行列になるような有名なものも多い。先輩、居酒屋もビュッフェスタイルにしてワンハンドフードを置いたら面白いと思いませんか？会社の飲み会なんかで居酒屋を使うときにいいかもね。でしょ？今の若い子たちは上司の横にずっと座っているのが苦痛だと思うんです。気軽に料理を取りに行けたらいいですね。そのまま立って食べられたら席に戻らなくてもいいですし。唐揚げ棒とかいいよね。フライドバードですね。私は緊張が解けて久しぶりに仕事中に笑うことができた。苦手な課長がいない部署は最高だ。私は念願の商品企画部で楽しく仕事をしている。そして、1年後。飲み会の席で渡辺先輩に告白され、付き合いが始まった。さらに半年後。君子のフライドバードが食べたい。と先輩からプロポーズ。実家暮らしの君コッティはそろそろ卒業する予定である。
I'm an elite who graduated from a very famous university. I'll be a company president in the future. How dare a subordinate farmer give me his opinion, an elite? He brags about being an elite and calls my husband the head of the subordinate farming division. But I never imagined at the time that his rampage would cause such a stir in the world. My name is Yoshiko Mifune. I'm 49 years old. I have 2 sons with my husband, who is 3 years older than me. Both sons are now working adults and working independently. My family runs a company that processes brain matter, and my husband married me and took over the family business. It's a no-holds-barred business, so to speak. And a few years ago, my husband took over as company president from my father. He's so serious about his work that my father also plays the drums. Now that I've finished raising my children, I've been busy every day supporting my husband and acting as a mother to the young employees. Today, my husband and I are going to an izakaya, but it's not just going out for drinks. A new branch of an izakaya chain that my husband's company does business with is opening. Apparently, they're inviting related companies to hold a ceremony before the opening. I've been asked to accompany them as the president's wife. After checking in, my husband and I enter the restaurant. Unlike the izakaya we had expected, it has a stylish Western-style appearance. Izakayas these days are stylish, aren't they? That's right. Young people have been avoiding drinking lately. Apparently, this trend is targeting young people as well, and the atmosphere is a little different from the previous restaurants. They've also expanded the menu. That's right, is that so? Question mark. If the menu expands, your company will be busy too. Oh, our vegetables, especially the frozen ones, are known for their high quality. It's a bit embarrassing to say it myself. Well, you can order as much as you want today. I'm looking forward to it. What should I get? The dishes we ordered were brought out one after another, and my husband and I enjoyed our meal. Everything is delicious. Yeah. These vegetables are so crispy, you wouldn't think they were frozen. They're from your company. I had a little drink in me, and I was feeling very happy. Then, excuse me while we were eating. a man in a suit suddenly spoke to us. Hello, I'm Fukuoka, the head of the department. He said that and sat down on an empty chair at the table without asking us for permission. Before sitting down in a regular seat, shouldn't he have at least said, "Is this okay?" This chain is a business that originated from my father's company. I've heard that both the president and the head of the department are very nice people and that they have been doing business with each other for many years. I was a little annoyed by Fukuoka's rude attitude. When my husband asked, "Hey, isn't the head of the department Matsui?" Fukuoka said, "Oh, Matsui must have been transferred somewhere." He took out a business card and placed it on the table. Then, to his surprise, he slid the business card toward my husband. There was a plate of food in front of my husband, and the business card stopped in front of the plate. My husband picked up the business card without saying anything and placed it near him. I have had the opportunity to meet with my husband's business partners, but I've never seen anyone behave so rudely. Even I, who has been a full-time housewife for many years, can tell that Fukuoka's business manners are terrible. And today, we are the ones who were invited. Is there any way to treat someone more rudely than this? I couldn't hold it in any longer and instinctively said, "Hey, Fukuoka." Then my husband calmed me down with eyes that said, "It's okay, leave it to me." As expected of a company president, my husband was calm. As expected. Fukuoka continued talking without paying any attention to my words. By the way, we were talking about vegetables, but aren't the farmers downstairs always working in the mud? They seem to be dressed up and really excited today. Is this your first time at such a fancy restaurant? Oh well, my husband gave a wry smile and gave a half-hearted reply. It's not like they're the president and his wife of a major client of your company, so it's only natural that they should be treated appropriately. I desperately swallowed the words that were about to come out of my mouth. I would have said something if I could. But I'll leave it to my husband, the company president. When I looked at my husband, he continued eating with a calm expression on his face. Isn't this ruining our meal? I wish Fukuoka would just go to another table. However, contrary to my thoughts, Fukuoka continued talking. It must be nice for the farmers downstairs to receive a business card from an elite head of the department like me. Keep it safe as a souvenir of today. Unlike Matsui, I'm an elite from a super famous university. I'm on the fast track to success and eventually becoming president. This business card will come in handy. Oh, it doesn't matter to the farmers who are his subordinates. How rude can you really be? Doesn't this guy even know the face of the president of a major business partner? And there's a limit to how much he treats farmers. My husband's company has its own farm, but they also do a lot of business with other farmers. All of these farmers put their heart and soul into producing safe and delicious vegetables. That's why my husband's company has been researching processing techniques and making great efforts every day to respond to that feeling. They work hard in cooperation with farmers to deliver even the tastiest vegetables and processed products to customers. I've been rooting for my husband. I couldn't help but feel frustrated when I thought that such a product, like my own child, would end up in the hands of this rude Fukuoka and end up in the hands of a customer. I don't know if he's an elite or not, but I can't stand it anymore. If he had spoken just 1 second earlier, I would have exploded, but then my husband spoke up. He said Mr. Fukuoka, right? Oh, I gave him my business card just now. Oh, it pisses me off every time. My husband continues with a cool face. You've been making fun of farmers for a while now, but aren't farmers the most important business partners for Autosha, which serves dishes made with domestic ingredients? Besides, the number of deliveries is different. I don't think it's right to treat a client as a subcontractor, but oh, are you trying to give me, the elite general manager, your opinion as a subcontractor? And what do you mean by farmer? You're a farmer, so don't scatter it on yourself. No, I'm not a farmer. I run a processed goods company. Well, I do have my own orchard, so you could say I'm half farming. They're probably just mediocre subcontractors anyway. That's right, I'll go and visit your subcontractors while I'm at it. Now that I'm the general manager, cost performance is number one. I have to lower the unit price of deliveries, starting with you subcontractors, and make a big profit for this store. If I do that, the path to becoming president will be clear to me. I'm not like that incompetent Matsuri. What the heck is wrong with this guy? We'll never deliver our company's important products to a guy like this. We've been doing business with you since your father's table, but you can stop doing business with us. I screamed at my husband in my heart. My husband's expression was still calm. He must have been through many hardships as a president. He was always a reliable husband, but today he seemed even more reliable. And he went to Fukuoka in a calm tone. Mr. Fukuoka, if you run your business with the company's profits as your top priority, you won't be able to maintain the quality of your food. I want our customers to eat delicious food. With that single-minded goal, I've made improvements, sometimes even at the risk of losing money. Farmers are the same. The company understood that and was very cooperative. That's why I've been able to continue doing business with my father-in-law's table. What the heck? You're trying to lecture me, an elite, like a subordinate? You guys are making a living thanks to us. This poor farmer is just looking at you. And what's more, my father-in-law's table. Talk big. Are you useless? Fukuoka must really hate being told what to do by others because he's giving off a terrible show. Can you call the president, who won't talk to you? Huh. There's no way the president would come to see a client like you. The president is over there greeting a major customer. That's why I have no choice but to go around to all the clients. If you have a complaint about me, I'll stop doing business with you. There are plenty of other clients. Even my husband is trying to keep his cool. But he calmly tells Fukuoka, I understand. Then this delivery will be the end of our business with Atosha. Quote, is that okay? What's with all that big talk? I told you there are plenty of other clients. Really? We're in the middle of our meal, but we'll take our leave now. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Shimi. Since our business with Atosha is over, there's no need to give Fukuoka my business card. It's a shame that I won't be able to eat this delicious food anymore. Okay, Yoshiko, let's go. Urged by my husband's voice, I left Fukuoka behind and got up from my seat. It's been a long time since I've been this angry. I was really looking forward to it, but in the end I couldn't even taste the food. I vented my frustration to my husband in the taxi on the way home. Oh, we've been blessed with great business partners so far. You're amazing too. You kept eating with a cool face after being told that. When you're the president, all sorts of things happen. But it's rare to find someone so mean. By the way, I haven't heard anything from Matsui about changing the person in charge. I hope nothing bad happens. Saying that, my husband leaned back deeply in the car seat and closed his eyes. He seemed calm, but he must have been tired. I didn't talk to him after that and let him rest. About 2 months later, when I stopped by my husband's company to deliver something, a woman from the gym called out to me. Ma'am, this is the store that supplies our products, right? She said, pointing at the computer screen. It's a restaurant review site. If you look closely, it's the same restaurant that got horrible treatment in Fukuoka. The reviews are amazing. At her urging, I read the reviews. It was a mess. When it first opened, the food was delicious, but the next time I went, the vegetables were soggy. I won't go there again. I went because people said the food was delicious, but it was terrible. It tasted weird. There were endless comments like that. Oh, we've ended our business with this chain. Does the president know about these reviews? No, he doesn't know. I was surprised to see it just now. Then his wife happened to be there. Yes, thank you. I'm sure her husband's company ran out of products. Fukuoka must be panicking too. It's because he's making fun of his business partner. He's a good guy. I curse myself in my heart. Welcome. The woman from the gym from earlier said that and headed toward the reception. I followed her with my eyes and saw a man in a suit with a familiar, fat belly and an unusually loud voice. It was definitely Fukuoka. Oh, the president is here. Fukuoka was still acting smug. What on earth are you doing when the store is in such a mess? Did you make a promise? When she asked, Fukuoka made a mocking face and said, I never made a promise. Just tell me that the head of the department, Fukuoka, is here. Quote. Understood. I'll go ask the president now. A little while later, Fukuoka was ushered into the president's office where my husband was. He made eye contact with me on the way, but he left without even saying hello. How rude can he really be? In the end, I ended up missing out on delivering to my husband. I left the delivery to my husband with the woman from the gym I had seen earlier and went home for the time being. I was itching to go to the president's office with my husband and hear what Fukuoka had to say, but I'm just the president's wife. I was worried about what Fukuoka would say, but I knew my husband would be fine. I decided to wait at home, believing that I'm home. My husband's home. Yuko, thank you for delivering the things I asked for. I got them from the guy at the gym. Yeah. I was going to go to you directly, but I was surprised when Fukuoka showed up. Are you okay? Oh, I think Yoshiko heard from Jib's son that the store is in a lot of trouble. It seems they really can't do without our ingredients. So Fukuoka-ya asked us to resume business. I listened to what he had to say, but he said we should deliver at the same price as before, and that our company was too expensive. He also said that if we were a major client, why didn't you tell him at the time? He just kept yelling and yelling, and it was impossible to have a conversation. So I told the chief to turn him down and take him back. Is that so? I don't know what ingredients he used instead, but I wonder if he didn't hear from Zenjin's general manager why he had to use our company's ingredients. Oh, I can't imagine Matsui from Zenjin doing something so irresponsible. I felt a little better when I heard that my husband flatly refused Fukuoka's request. It's been about a month since Fukuoka showed up at my husband's company. Apparently he hasn't come to my husband's company since then. Well, I think it's time for lunch. I finished all my morning chores and decided to take a break and have lunch. I thought I'd watch the lunchtime variety show. I happened to turn on the TV and saw that a celebrity had gotten married. The commentators were making a fuss about it. Well, it's good to have something to celebrate. Now for the next news item. There's been another case of food fraud in the food industry. Oh, I couldn't help but react to the announcer's voice. Because of my husband's job, I'm sensitive to this kind of news too. Come to think of it, there was one the other day. I stopped eating lunch and watched the TV. Yes, the fraud was discovered at a chain izakaya restaurant. Huh? I hurriedly picked up my cell phone and called my husband. Hello, what's wrong? My husband answered right away. Oh, can you watch TV now? Oh. He was just taking a break with his employees. Hey, can you turn on the TV for a moment? Oh, is that it? Then I'll hang up for now. I hung up on my husband and was glued to the screen again. Yes, the fraud was discovered at that Fukuoka izakaya restaurant that was late. The screen showed an apology press conference. Two men in suits bowed deeply, and camera flashes went off all at once. The name tags on the desk read, from left to right, President and General Manager. The General Manager must be Fukuoka. The two men who had been bowing for a long time looked up, but the General Manager was not Fukuoka. Oh, what's going on? After the President finished apologizing, the General Manager gave an explanation of the recent commotion. The General Manager was Matsui, the man her husband had been talking about. According to the explanation, Matsui had been on a business trip with the aim of opening a store overseas. While he was away, Fukuoka was left in charge of acting General Manager. It was only for a short period of time, so it was just a formality. However, Fukuoka misunderstood something and went out of control, which is the true nature of the current commotion. Matsui explained carefully so as not to offend the people listening. Then he bowed deeply again, saying that it was his fault that he, as the general manager, had not been aware of the actions of the acting general manager. But why did it cause such a commotion? This became clear during the explanation. It was because Fukuoka had been using cheap imported ingredients in order to pursue profits. The selling point of this izakaya chain is that they only use domestic ingredients in their cooking. So if they use imported food and it gets out to the public, it will be a huge problem. Fukuoka, who has been bragging about himself as an elite, will surely face some kind of punishment from the company for causing such a scandal. Even so, it's Fukuoka who should be apologizing for Matsui, who did nothing wrong and is now in the spotlight. I watched the TV feeling uneasy. The TV screen switched to the studio. The commentators were giving their opinions on the matter. Then, the host said something surprising. In this case, our program is actually interviewing FG, the agent who conducted the ceremony on site. On the screen, a man in a suit is walking quickly. A reporter with a microphone approaches him. His face is blurred out, but Mr. F is definitely Fukuoka. In response to the reporter's question, I was only acting in the best interests of the company. As usual, he's acting like a tyrant. Stop being so noisy. Fukuoka tries to shake off the reporter and leave, saying, that's enough. However, the reporter persists. Especially regarding Company M, whose contract you terminated this time. Is it about Fufu's company, M Company? The reporter continued. The ingredients of M Company are processed in a patented manner, and the dishes cannot be reproduced with anyone else's. The head of the department said that at the press conference, but Fukuoka stopped. Oh, a patent? Oh, you didn't hear that? From the head of the department. The reporter pressed on. Then Fukuoka confronted the reporter. I'm the head of the department. He got angry. I almost spit out the tea I was drinking. I'm dizzy. He's outsmarted me again. I graduated from a better university than he is and I'm an elite. Why am I always behind Matsui? I was supposed to do something great this time and become the head of the department. Fukuoka was about to grab the reporter by the neck. As expected, the part about Matsui was beeped, but anyone who saw it would understand. The direct interview ended there, and the screen showed the exasperated host and commentators. However, it's rare for someone to get angry at a press conference, but this is terrible. It was completely Fukuoka's self-destruction. Due to this incident, Izakaya-chan was forced to temporarily close. According to my husband, General Manager Matsui visited him and offered a heartfelt apology. He also said that he would like to resume business with them once he has regained the trust of his customers. Matsui is truly a great person. It should be Fukuoka who should be apologizing. Fukuoka was fired from the company. It is only natural, as his reckless behavior caused a great deal of damage to the company. That's not all. Izakaya-chan also demanded compensation from Fukuoka personally. As for Fukuoka's situation after that, according to what my husband heard from his colleagues, no company would hire Fukuoka anymore. It's only natural, considering how much of a loss he suffered was broadcast on TV. Furthermore, his wife apparently left him out of love. Well, that's only natural. He is now working part-time at a farm somewhere, alongside high school students, harvesting crops. He used to look down on the work of a farmer. I hope he does his best. I wonder how many years it will take to repay his debts. Well, this whole commotion was caused by Fukuoka's selfish actions. He has no choice but to clean it up himself. Although business with the izakaya chain has been temporarily suspended, my husband's company remains stable. Ever since the news about that izakaya came out, we've had a lot of phone calls from people asking about doing new business. My husband, who had just come home from work, spoke with a slightly bewildered smile. If business with the izakaya chain resumes, sales will increase even more. I was surprised to be caught up in this sudden disaster. But thanks to it, I was able to see my husband's reliable side as a president. And I'm proud of him for putting customers first in his work, not just his own appearance or profits. My husband is still in his 50s. He's still very active. He may face various misfortunes as a president in the future. But I know my husband will overcome them no matter what. I will continue to support him with all my heart.
やっぱ若い女の子はいいよな。おばさんとは全然違う。自分の裏切りを正当化して笑う夫。その隣には信じられないことに姪が立っていた。
かわいそうなおばさん。乾杯しちゃったね。せめて赤ちゃん生まれたら抱っこさせてあげようか？
血の通った人のやることとは思えない。こんな人たち、もう二度と関わりたくないわ。絶対に幸せになって、いつか必ず見返してやるから。私はななみ、38歳。今はパートで働いている兼業主婦。結婚して8年の夫は会社を経営していて、周りからは羨ましい、なんて言われることもあるし、恵まれている環境だと思わなきゃいけないんだけど。お姉ちゃん、まだ子供できないの？本当に欲しいと思ってる？ゆうきさんかわいそうじゃね？そうだよな。俺、いつまで待たされるのかな。周りの友達は、2人目、3人目って話もどんどん出てきてるのにさ。俺だけ置いてかれてるんだよな。金曜日の夜。ほっとしたいはずの週末なのに、我が家のリビングでは、夫のゆうきと妹のえいみがなぜか酒盛りをしている。ちゃんと検査したけど、私とゆうき、どちらに問題があるって話じゃないの。そんな風に私を責めるようなこと言われても困るわ。でも妊娠するのって女側じゃん？それで俺にも共同で責任があるとか言われてもな。説得力ないって。ああ、妹のえいみちゃんは若くして子供を産んでて偉いよ。酔っ払って顔を赤くしたゆうきに褒められたえいみは、ふふんと笑ってさらにビールを煽った。えいみは17歳の時に娘を産んでいた。私の姪にあたるゆあはもう18歳になっているから、えいみも自由気ままに遊びに出かけられるらしいけど、あの時は妊娠させてきた彼氏に逃げられて散々な思いをしたけど、ゆあも立派に育って高校も卒業したし、私も頑張ったよね。やっぱり女の人は子供を産んで育ててなんぼ。お前も早く一人前の女になれるといいよな、ななみ。酔っ払いの言葉とはいえ、さすがにカチンとくる。だけど、私が子供を8年妊娠できていないのも事実で、堂々と2人に言い返すことができなかった。それで調子に乗るのもどうかと思うけど、お酒の入った妹と夫は止まらない。憧れるなぁ。赤ん坊を抱いて、みんなからおめでとうを言われる俺。仕事から帰ったら、妻と子供がニコニコ迎えてくれてさ、休日は子供と公園に遊びに行ったりして、 早くななみも母親になってくれよ。お姉ちゃんにはもう無理じゃない？昔から勉強とか仕事とか正解のあることばっかりしかやってこなかったから。子育てとか繊細なメンタル持ってないとできないからね。はあ、確かに。ななみには無理そうだな。しっかり者って言えば聞こえはいいけど、自分中心なだけだもんな。だから子供も授かれないのよ。選んで生まれてくるって言うからさ。最低だ。好き勝手なことばかり言って盛り上がるのが、まさか自分の夫と妹だなんて。だからやめてよ。そうやって根拠のないことばかり言って私を悪者にするのは。だいたい、エイミもこんな時間までいいの？ユアだってまだ10代でしょ？うるさいな。私はもう子育て終わったんだって。ユアもう立派な大人なんだから。ま、子供とは縁のないお姉ちゃんにはわかんないだろうけど。妹のエイミは若い頃から自由奔放なところがある。ユアを産んだ高校生の時も、結局高校を中退して、その後両親を頼りながらのアルバイト生活。本人曰く何かに縛られたくない。いつでも自由な人生を送りたい。とのことらしいけど。それで割を食うのはいつも私だ。この日も私を散々見下すことを酒の魚にして、エイミは遅くまで勇気と盛り上がり続けたのだった。勇気もエイミも困ったものよね。特に勇気にはもっと意識を高く持ってもらわないと妊活なんて成功しない。翌週の頭、私は一人でランチをしていた。お気に入りのカフェのお気に入りのランチメニューだ。金曜日のモヤモヤを晴らしたくて、せめてお昼は自分の好きな時間を過ごすことにしたけど、頭の中のモヤモヤは晴れない。しかも、その日に限って、なぜかもっとモヤモヤの種を持って私に近づく人物がいた。
ななみおばさん？
ユア、どうしたの？なんと、私の行きつけのカフェに現れたのは、姪のユアだった。ここは、ユアやエイミの生活圏内じゃないはずだけど、と、いぶかしむ私をよそに、ユアは勝手に私と相席をしだした。
ななみおばさんって遠慮がないんだね。ユア、旦那様のお金でこんな高そうなとこのランチできない。
ランチは自分のお金で食べてるわよ。私もパートはしてるから。
へえ、ななみおばさんもまあまあお金持ってるんだ。じゃあ今日はユアにおごってくれるでしょ？
いいけど。ユアはいつもこうだ。私をうっすら見下しているくせに、姪だから、若いから、お金がないからと言いながら、私や私の両親、つまりユアにとっての祖父母にナチュラルにお金を払わせる。時によっては、あの手この手で現金をせしめていくこともあって、私はある程度の年齢からユアが苦手だった。だけど、たった一人の姪ということもあり、情も残るし、完全に遠ざけることなく今に至る。ユアは高校卒業したのよね。今は大学生？学校がこの辺なのかしら。
違うけど、大学生なんてだるいことやってらんないもん。
ああ、そうなの？じゃあ、どこかに就職したのかしら。
なわけないじゃん。ユア、一生働きたくない。今はね、お金が自動で湧いてくる方法を考えてんだ。
今時の若者で片付けるには、ユアの思想はむちゃくちゃすぎる。面食らった私は、ついでに思い出すことがあった。ちょっと待って。エイミはお父さんとお母さんからユアの進学費を借りたって言ってたわよ。だから私はてっきりユアが進学したかと。違うなら詐欺じゃない。
ななみおばさんってやっぱおばさんなんだ。考え方古い。言い方、伝え方を変えるだけで相手は気持ちよくお金を出してくれるんだよ。ユア、あとちょっとしたらお金がいる予定が入ってるから、そのためにまとまった額がいるの。
考え方の問題じゃないでしょ。というか、お金がいる予定って何？まさか良くないことじゃないでしょうね。とにかく、エイミとユアが目的をごまかしてお金を受け取ったことは両親に報告するから。私が怒ると、ユアはイライラしながら長い爪でテーブルをコンコン叩いた。
ああ、もうやめてよ。ユア、今日はそんな話しに来たんじゃないし。だいたいななみおばさんだって若い時は散々お金使ったんでしょ？
は？何のこと？
うちのママは高校も大学も出れなかったのに、おばさんはどっちもしっかりお金かけて通ったんでしょ？ゆあのママがもらえなかった分、ゆあがもらっても何の問題もないじゃん。
私はとんでも理論をさも当然というように話す名誉前にめまいがしてきた。絶対にこの子の説得は無理だ。というか、エイミといい、ゆあといい、なぜ私のリラックスタイムになるはずの時間に侵入しては邪魔をするのだろう。ゆあ、今日は一体どうしたの？用事があるなら早く済ませてくれない？
はいはい。ななみおばさんって昔からほんとせっかちだよね。ななみおばさんと結婚できた人すごくない？
ゆうきのこと？別にすごくなんか。
そうそう、ゆうきさん。会社経営してるんでしょ？会社の場所どこ？
ゆあは突然にやりと笑うと、それから私に矢継ぎ早に質問をかぶせてきた。
ゆうきさんの写真ある？身長何センチ？好きな食べ物は？
なんで今更そんなゆうきのことを聞くのよ。
だって、おばさんが結婚式した8年前なんて、ゆうは小さくて覚えてないし、それから会うことあんまりなかったから気になって。ねえ。
意味ありげに微笑んで首をかしげたゆあは、なぜか勝ち誇って見える。私の気のせいだろうかと考えていると、ゆあは、
もうお腹いっぱいだから帰ろーっと。
と言って、頼んだものをほとんど残して立ち上がった。私が唖然としていると、去り際にゆあは機嫌よく私を振り返る。
てかおばさん、その年で不妊治療してるって本当？ウケるんだけど、もう諦めなよ。おばさんらしく一人で生きてく覚悟を決めてね。
は？一人でって。ゆあは、あまりな失礼な発言に私は怒りかけたけど、あのエイミの娘だからと、その時はすぐに諦めて怒りを収めた。そして、ゆあがわざわざ一人で、と言ったことなんて、私はすぐに忘れてしまった。まさかこれが、ゆあの宣戦布告だとも気づかずに。それから3ヶ月は一見平和な日々が続いた。平和といっても、私には気がかりなことがあった。夫の結城の様子が明らかに変なのだ。何か話しかけても上の空だったり、うざったそうにため息をつかれたり。結城、聞いてる？今度の週末なんだけど、私大事な予定が入ってて。聞いてるってうるさいな。週末の予定くらい自分一人で把握しておけよ。俺が知ったことじゃないし。え？俺は経営者。パートだけしてヘラヘラ遊んで暮らしてるお前とは忙しさのレベルが天と地ほど違うんだよ。頭にお前の予定なんて入れてる隙間もないほど忙しいことを考えてんだよ。わかる？その時も日常会話をしているつもりだったのに、ゆうきに突然怒鳴られてしまった。ゆうきは調子に乗りやすいし、子供っぽいところがあるけど、声を荒げることは今までない。どうしたの？急にそんなに怒って。怒ってないって、しつこいな。いちいち週末の予定とか共有しようとするなって。そういうところが本当おばさん臭いよな。おば？ゆうきの様子がおかしかったのは、この時ばかりではない。最近何かというとおばさん臭い。年取ったんだから、なんて言ってくる。自分の方が年上なことも忘れてるみたいだ。男の更年期？いちいち言い返すのも悪化させるかしら。私は夫の態度を不思議に思ったけど、その原因まで深く探ることはしなかった。後から考えると、ひどい裏切りの前兆だったのに。勇気の様子が変わってからしばらくは、私は妊活を頑張る気持ちにもなれなかった。話しかければ、ギスギスした返答をしてくる夫の子供なんて、本当に産んでいいのか、迷いまで出てくる始末。とある土曜日、仕事が休みの勇気は朝から黙って出かけたため、私は一人で散歩をしていた。その途中、通っている産婦人科の前を通りかかった。そういえば、予約の日が近いなぁ。キャンセルもあるよね。今の状況じゃ子供、産む以前の問題だもの。そんなことを考えながら産婦人科の前を通り過ぎようとしたとき、中から一組の男女が寄り添って出てきた。最初は子供を授かった夫婦かな、なんて思ったけど、その二人の顔が視界に入った途端、私は釘付けになってしまった。 勇気？なんと、産婦人科から出てきた二人組の一人は夫の勇気。そして、ユアも？なんであなたたちが揃って産婦人科から出てくるの？うげ。勇気が恋人のように寄り添っているのは姪のユア。二人とも私の姿を見つけると、半笑いでやばいという表情を作った。何してるの？何って、ユアが妊娠したからその診察だけど？勇気が付き添って？おかしな組み合わせじゃない。一体何がどうなってるの？ユアと勇気は手まで繋いでいる。しかも、ユアは私を見下すような、勝ち誇った笑顔まで浮かべて。私が自分の頭に浮かんだ最悪の予想が当たっていませんようにと念じていたとき、後ろから明るい声が響いてきた。二人とも迎えに来たよ。ってあれ？お姉ちゃんじゃん。やば。なんで見つかっちゃうかな。産婦人科の駐車場の方から明るく歩いてきたのは妹のエイミ。ユアやユウキと同様、その場を楽しむようにニヤニヤ笑っている。エイミちゃんバレちゃったよ。だからこの産婦人科はやめようって言ったのに。
やだ。だってユア、ユウキくんの奥さんが使ってる病院で妊娠してるって判定して欲しかったんだもん。
もう、わがままだな。目の前でイチャイチャと騒ぐ姪と夫。私は気分を真っ暗にさせながら、精一杯夫の方を向いて喋った。ユキ、あなた何してるの？まさか、ユアを妊娠させたの？え？そうだけど？この状況見たらわかるだろ？わざわざ聞くなよ。まあ、お姉ちゃんも信じたくないわよね。自分が妊娠できないせいで、夫を若い女。しかも、姪に取られたなんてさ。ゲラゲラと笑う結城とエイミの隣で、ユアはにっこりと微笑んでお腹を撫でた。最低だわ。あなたたち、自分たちが一体どれほどのことをしたかわかってるの？震えながら言葉をひねり出した私を、裏切り者三人はあたけるように笑う。どれほどのことって、妊娠できなかった自分を棚に上げて何言ってんだ？若い子はやっぱいいよな。関係持ってから一瞬で妊娠したんだぞ。女は若いうちに妊娠するのが正解なのよ。お姉ちゃんも今更私を羨んでも無駄だったの。かわいそうに、お姉ちゃんは一生一人で生きていくのね。
てか、二人とも若いユアに感謝してよ。今日の待合室でもユアがダントツ若くて最高だった。みんな、ななみおばさんみたいに妊娠できなくて苦しんでるのかな？おばさん見下すのってやっぱ気分いいわ。
妊娠したユアは有頂天。私だけじゃなく、世の中の女性全員より自分がすごいと思い込んでいるかのよう。最低だわ。どうしてそんなに人間性が終わってるのよ。人を見下して、人の夫を取って、どういうつもりなの？
は？人の夫を取ってって、あんたがユアに自分の夫を紹介したようなもんじゃん。聞かれたら自分の旦那のことホイホイ喋っちゃってさ。かわいそすぎ。赤ちゃん生まれたらせめて抱っこさせてあげようか？
どうしてそういう発想になるの？思えばあの時から勇気に目をつけてたのね。勇気も勇気よ。ユアは18歳よ。こんな若い子に手を出して赤ちゃん産ませるなんて恥ずかしくないの？恥ずかしいってなんだよ。これからは若い嫁を周りに自慢できて最高だわ。アラフォーの嫁なんて自慢にも何にもならなかったもんな。会社経営者で妻が10代ってかなりの勝ち組じゃね？私との結婚生活をすでに過去形にしている勇気の言い草に、私は血の気がざっと引いた。私と離婚するってことなのね。あとちょっと経ってから言い出すつもりだったけど、見つかっちゃったらしょうがないか。若い子を味わっちゃうと、おばさんとの生活は苦痛でしかなかったからな。もう今日で離婚するか。ななみ、すがりついてくるなよ。後悔もためらいもない夫は、もう私の知っている人ではない。吐き気がしてきた私を、妹のエイミは押しのけて笑った。ちょっと、景気の悪い顔やめてくれる？こっちはユアの妊娠祝いしに行くんだから。
やったー！ママありがとう！ついでに、ユアとユウキくんの結婚祝いもしよ
う。お、いいな。盛大にやろう。倒れんばかりの私を置き去りに、裏切り者の3人は楽しそうに笑いながら駐車場まで歩き出す。と、ユウキは、あっ と何かに気づいて私を振り返った。ななみ、引っ越す準備。今日明日で終わらせとけよ。俺もこの土日で蹴りつけてユアとの新生活を始めるから。そんな捨て台詞とバカ笑いを残し、夫は妹の車に乗り込み、姪と共に行ってしまった。私はその場でめまいを起こして倒れ込んでしまった。幸いにも産婦人科の人が気づいてくれたらしい。次に目を覚ましたのは産婦人科の中で、私は点滴を受けさせてもらっていた。体調が落ち着くのを待って、病院のスタッフさんにお礼を言って、外に出ようとする私は、通り過ぎた待合室が目に入って涙が流れてきた。夫との子供を授かるために、ここに何度通ったことだろう。夫の協力や理解がなくても、子供が欲しいという要望に応えて、たくさんの時間を費やしてきたのに。だけど、それももう今日で終わり。夫は私の命に手を出すという最悪な行為に走ったのだから。見てなさい。私は絶対に今より幸せになってみせる。いつか今日という日を後悔するのは私を裏切った人たちよ。私は涙を拭くと、1秒でも早く家を出るための準備をしに自宅へと急いだのだった。そして人生最悪の日から2年。あの時はどうなることかと思ったけど、意外と人生何とでもなるもので、今私は平穏な生活を取り戻していた。だけど、苦労して取り戻した平穏な生活は、一本の電話でもう一波乱起こることに。もしもし？あ、ななみ？ある日、私のスマホに電話がかかってきた。なんなのよ、ゆうき。今更連絡してこないで。だって、ななみと離婚してから俺、おかしくて。いや、離婚してすぐは良かったんだよ。だけど最近どうしてもななみに連絡取りたくて。絶対にいつか私に連絡してくると思ってたけど、案外早かったわね。何のことだよ。とにかく、ななみに会いたいんだ。会ってくれよ。すでに半泣きの勇気。その声を聞くだけでゾワゾワするくらい嫌だけど、けじめをつけたいのは私も一緒。勇気に日付と場所の指定をすると、私は決戦の場に向かう気持ちで気を引き締めたのだった。あら、皆さんお揃いね。とある週末、私は勇気に指定した店に指定した時間で訪れた。そこには勇気だけではなく、般若のような顔をしたユアとエイミが座っていた。勇気は女二人に両サイドを固められ、青くなっている。ちょっとどういうことよ。こそこそ家を出ていくから何事かと思ってついてきたら、元妻と密会する気だったのね。ななみおばさん最低。許せない。お姉ちゃん、人の夫に手を出そうって言うの？しかも身内の夫に。常識疑うわよ。私に向かってヒステリックに詰め寄ってきたユアもエイミも、最後に会った2年前よりやつれてクマができ、髪の毛もボサボサ。二人ともとても私よりずっと年が下とは思えない風貌だ。あら、ユアもエイミも随分余裕がないのね。ユキもかわいそう。わざわざ自分から不幸になりに行く判断力しかなかったんだもの。何よその言い草は。お姉ちゃんは私たちを馬鹿にしてるの？ななみおばさん、調子に乗らないで。私、夫を取られそうになったって訴えてやってもいいんだからね。ギャンギャンわめく妹と姪に、私は思わず吹き出してしまった。あのね、馬鹿にされたのも、訴えたいのも私の方なんだけど、あなたたち、私の広い心で慰謝料請求されていないことに気づいてるの？私は今日、勇気に泣き疲れたから来ただけ。さっさと用事を済ませてもらって帰りたいのよ。私は勇気と離婚した頃、ショックが大きすぎて弁護士を雇って戦う気力がなかった。だから今までユアや勇気に慰謝料の請求をしていなかったんだけど、その事実を突きつけると、ユアもエイミも顔を引きつらせてようやく黙った。勇気、そんなわけだからさっさと要件を言ってくれない？要件。小さくなった勇気は何が怖いのか震えながら左右の女二人に視線を走らせる。何よ、さっさと言って。私忙しいのよね。何も言わないなら帰るわよ。あ、待って。私が立ち上がりかけると、勇気は ごくりと唾を飲み込んでやっと話し出した。ななみ、俺と、よりを戻してくれ。
はぁ？
勇気の言葉に絶叫したのは私ではない。今は勇気の妻であるユアと、その母親のエイミが目を向いて勇気を睨みつけている。
なんでそうなるのよ。ユアよりこのおばさんの方がいいっていうの？信じられない。どうしてよ。肌のピチピチ感も髪のツヤツヤ感もユアのがどう見ても上なのに。
いや、そういう話じゃない。ユア全然俺のサポートしてくれないじゃん。書類どこやったとか、取引先との商談の日程とか全然把握してくれないじゃん。経理の仕事もやってくれないから、うちの会社の決算書はもうぐちゃぐちゃ。俺、急に仕事が回らなくなって取引先には怒られるし、税理士にも怒られるし、社員たちには白い目で見られるし、最悪だよ。ななみみたいにちゃんとサポートしてくれよ。ユアは、勇気の言い分をポカンと口を開けて受け止めていた。勇気と結婚していた期間、私は要望されるがまま、勇気の秘書のようなことをしていた。さらに、私が簿記検定1級を持っているため、経理の仕事も一手に引き受けていたのだ。勇気はできる経営者を気取っているが、会社自体はまだ若く、社員は数人。私は勇気と結婚する前から会社の経理や財務をサポートしていた。考えてみれば、創業当時から無償で労働力を提供していたことになる。そんな事情をユアは知らずに経営者というだけで勇気を狙ったのだろ
ちょっと、あんた経営者でしょ？なんで元妻に頼らないとやっていけないとか弱音吐くのよ。
だって、ななみは何でもかんでもタダでやってくれたんだぞ。今ななみほど経理ができる人を雇おうとするといくらかかると思う？それならななみとやり直した方がコスパいいだろ？
最低。コスパで妻を選ぶな。っていうか、子供を産んだユアは唯一無二よ。子供を産めないおばさんの方が価値あるみたいな言い方すんな。
じゃあユアも簿記検1級取ってみろよ。取れないだろ？めちゃくちゃ難しいんだぞ。一体何の言い争いをしているのか。というか、人間の価値を測ろうだなんて、ずうずうしいし失礼すぎる。私が静観していると、ユアの不満も爆発し、勇気の生活態度にまで話が及び始めた。
っていうか、ゆうきくん最近おっさん度が増しすぎ。結婚する前はまあまあだったのに、今はただの小太りのおっさんじゃん。服装も結婚したら急にダサくなったし、こんなの詐欺じゃん。
そりゃあ、前は私が勇気の身なりにも気を使って、食事にも気を使ってたからね。見た目の変化はしょうがないかも。勇気は正直、仕事以外のところでは全く自立心がなく、離婚前は生活のすべてを私に頼りっぱなしだった。食事から着るものまで。一緒に暮らしていた頃は、私はパートで養ってもらっている立場だからと思っていたけど、離婚して改めて考えてみると、無給で経理と秘書の仕事をさせられるわ。家でも赤ん坊のように世話をしなきゃならないわで、私の負担が大きすぎた。要は、おとなしく搾取され続けていたのだ。ユアに責められた勇気は、若い妻に向かって責任をなすりつけ始めた。ユアが悪いんだよ。カップ麺ばっか食わせやがって。そりゃ太りもするだろ。ユアの生活態度だって、ナナミとは雲泥の差。子供を産んだだけで毎日偉そうにして、家事も育児も何もできないじゃん。
はぁ？おじさんが何上から物を言ってるわけ？最初は若い嫁もらってデレデレしてたくせに、ユアの若い時間を返して。
ちょっと待って。今日は子供はどうしたの？確か私に離婚を言い渡した時には、ユアは妊娠していて、今は2歳近くになっているはず。ユアが家事も育児もできないと言った勇気の言葉が本当なら、子供は大丈夫なのだろうか。驚いて私が尋ねると、ちっと舌打ちしたのはエイミだった。この前お父さんとお母さんに連れられてったわ。とてもじゃないけど、ユアとユウキくんには任せておけないってさ。イライラと私を睨んでくる妹。彼女も私に言いたいことがたっぷりありそうだった。私は睨みつけてくるエイミに向かって毅然とした態度で喋りかけた。お父さんとお母さんも私の離婚原因は知ってるから、 ゆうきの子供を預かるって話を私に切り出せなかったのね。それでなんでエイミが怒っているのかしら。ムカつくのよ。お姉ちゃんばっかり恵まれた人生を送ってさ。ユアのことでお父さんもお母さんもお姉ちゃんだけをかばって。ユアが産んだ私の孫に面会禁止って言われて、両親に縁を切られた私の気持ちがわかる？それは私だって言いたいわ。エイミはいつも自分勝手で、ユアを未婚のまま産んだ時だって、妊婦だから気遣えって言って、めちゃくちゃに振り回された。今回のことだって、エイミはいい気味と私を見下していたんでしょうけど、両親から縁を切られるのも当然よ。ユアが勇気の子供を産むって言った時点で予想できなかったの？多分、エイミはずっと私の人生の足を引っ張りたかったのだろう。そういえば、経営者である勇気との結婚が決まった時も、お姉ちゃんばっかりずるいと泣いて哀れたっけ。ユアが勇気を狙い出した時は手を叩いて喜んだはずだ。産婦人科への送り迎えを率先してやっていたのも、私の悔しがる顔を見たかったからに違いない。私が2年前に言えなかった分まで正論で言い返すと、エイミは顔を真っ赤にしてテーブルを叩いた。そういうところよ。昔からモテないし、とうとう子供も産めなかったくせに偉そうにして。今だって何も持ってないくせに何様なのよ。あら、何も持っていないのはエイミじゃない。娘は子供もまともに育てられず、エイミ自身は孫と面会禁止にされるほどダメなおばあちゃんってことでしょ？おとなしく私の娘に人生潰されときなさいよ。何平気そうにしてんのよ。気に食わない。娘を使って姉への嫉妬を晴らすのはやめなさい。見苦しい。私に勝ちたいなら自分自身で努力してみなさいよ。私が言うと、エイミは口をパクパクさせた。そのエイミを見て、ユアは、え？とすっとんきょうな声を上げる。
ってことは、ユアはママの復讐に使われたってこと？ユアは被害者じゃん。どうしてくれるの？ママの策略のせいで、おじさんと結婚することになったんだけど。
最初にお姉ちゃんの旦那が欲しいって言ったのはユアでしょ？私は知らないわよ。もう大人なんだから自分のやったことの責任は持ちなさい。
責任って、ユアまだ20歳なんですけど、同年代の彼氏欲しくなってきた。
ユキとの言い合いも醜かったけど、この親子も相当だ。信頼関係なんてまるでない。まあ、エイミはユアを産んだ当初から私たちの両親に頼りっぱなしで、子育てらしい子育てをしていないから当然か。なあ、この親子破綻してるよな。やばいだろ？なあ、ママミ、俺と会社を助けてよ。もう一度やり直させてくれ。言い合う親子の間に挟まり、肩を震わせた結城は、ずうずうしい提案をまだ引っ込めない。私はそんな元夫を冷たい目で思い切り睨んだ。残念だけど、私既婚者なの。ただで経理をしてほしいなら他を当たって。そんな既得な人がいるわけないけどね。え？勇気の大声で、それまで言い争っていたエイミとユアも固まって私を見た。結婚？無理だろ。今、ナナミいくつだよ。おばさんと結婚したいだなんて。失礼ね。バツイチの40歳でも愛してくれる人はちゃんといるのよ。しかも、勇気と同じく会社を経営してる人だけど、妻を無償でこき使ったりしない上に会社も順調なの。ほら。私はスマホを取り出して夫の写真を見せた。妻の私が言うのもなんだが、今の夫は私が口を出す隙間もないほどおしゃれで体も引き締まっている。私が見せた写真の夫を見て最初に口を開いたのはユアだった。
何この渋いイケオジ？しかも経営者？ユアこの人欲しい。もう一度、ナナミおばさんの夫を奪ってやる。
やれるもんならやってみなさい。言っとくけど、彼は勇気ほど単純じゃないわよ。まあ、ちょっとでも夫に近づいた時点で、私は容赦しないから、そのつもりでいなさい。何度も人の夫を略奪できると思わないで。自分の価値を高く見積もりすぎよ。私が声を荒げると、ユアは固まり、周知で顔を真っ赤にして震え出した。私はそれを見て少し胸がスッとしたため、その場を離れようと席を立つ。あ、待ってくれよ、ナナミ。俺を置いていかないでくれ。嫌よ。誰が簡単に妻を捨てるような人間を拾うものですか。というか、
私、明日から夫とバカンスに出かけるの。こんなところでぐずぐずしてる暇ないのよね。帰ってきたら、あなたたちに慰謝料請求するための弁護士も探さなきゃいけないし、忙しいわ。そう言うと、エイミは羨ましさと悔しさでテーブルに突っ伏して泣き出したし、ユアとユウキは大慌てで顔を真っ青にした。
無理だよ、慰謝料なんて。子供の養育費もあって、貯金はユアに食いつぶされたし、どうすりゃいいんだ。
ななみおばさん、今の夫も狙うとか冗談だから、なんならユウキくんも返すし、もう無理。ユアお金ないもん。泣きながら私にすがろうとするユアとユウキを一別して、私は今度こそ席を立って離れていった。今になって連絡よこさなきゃよかったのに、それに、この場で私を追加で罵らなきゃ、私も過去のことは忘れてあげたのに、あなたたちはその欲で徹底的に身を滅ぼさないと気が済まないみたいだから、お望み通りにしてあげるだけよ。私はそう言い放つと、泣いたり怒ったりする3人のいる店を離れた。翌日からは愛する夫と長期のバカンス。私はやっと2年前の呪いに決着をつけられて、爽やかな気持ちで旅行に備えたのだった。その後のユアとユウキの末路はお察しの通り。夫婦生活が破綻した2人は離婚。親権はユアに一度は渡ったそうだけど、子供は私の両親の元から離れたがらず、結局、両親が引き取ることになった。今後、養子縁組も考えているそうだけど、私は特に異論はない。生まれた子供に罪はなく、不幸せな人生など望んでいないからだ。ユアは子供からも顔を忘れられて、同世代の友達はおらず、なかなかに孤独な生活を送っているみたい。勇気を略奪した当初、やめた方がいいと忠告してくれる友達もいたのに、すべてそれを無視した結果だから当然だろう。学歴も職歴もないユアは、アルバイトを転々としながら、養育費と慰謝料を何とか捻出する日々。若さにかまけて、無計画な人生を歩もうとするからそうなるのだ。我が姪ながら情けない結果である。ユアの母親であるエイミは、そんな限界状態のユアがたびたびお金の無心に訪れるので気が気ではないらしい。エイミもエイミで高校中退以降、両親に甘えまくりながら過ごしてきたため、ろくな働き口は得られない。両親から縁を切られた今、生活するためのお金も満足に得られないのだから、娘にたかられるのなどたまったものではないのだろう。エイミの暮らすアパートにユアが怒鳴り込み、連日朝まで二人で言い争っていたため、とうとうアパートも追い出されたとか。安定した収入がないから賃貸もまともに借りられないのに、一体これからどうするのやら。勇気はというと、会社はやはりうまくいかず畳むことになったらしい。経理と秘書を兼任していた私がいなくなっただけで回らなくなる会社なんて、いずれにしても息は長くなかっただろう。勇気は勢いが良く、声も大きいタイプのため、起業は向いていたみたいだけど、人の下につくことは我慢ならないというどうにもできない欠点を抱えていた。そんな欠点が面接中顔を出すのか、なかなか就職させてくれる会社が見つからないとか。それでも子供の養育費と私への慰謝料は待ってくれない。今は日雇いのバイトでなんとか食いつないでいるらしいけど、勇気の年齢でそんな生活がいつまで続けられるのやら。体力が持っても山のように高い勇気のプライドが先に値を上げそうな気もしている。まあ、私の心配は慰謝料の満額支払いだけ。その後のことは知ったことではない。2年前にかなりの傷を負った私の心は、愛する夫によってめきめきと癒されていっている。夫と話すと刺激になって、私もステップアップしたいと考えられるようになった。今は持っている資格をより活かすために、税理士試験に向けて勉強している最中だ。同じ目線で語り合えるパートナーがこれほどありがたいものだとは思ってもみなかった。私たちは年齢的にも時間的にも子供は諦めたけど、これからバリバリ働いてしっかり納税し、社会の役に立っていこうと言い合っている。それが多分一番私らしい人生の送り方だと思う。
if you're going to take a break from housework, give up on the kids. My husband and I were both annoyed by how she said things like that so casually, as if we were helpless. Give up on the kids? If she was going to do that, I'd rather give up on having any further relationship with her. So we cut off all ties, but no one could have predicted that my mother-in-law would take such a huge turn for the worse in her life. You have to be kind to people. My name is Kaori. I'm 38 years old, and when Valentine's Day approaches, I can't help but buy myself some expensive chocolate and indulge. As a result, my belly ends up looking extravagant in February. By the way, my husband always asks me resentfully why he only gives me Tyrol chocolate and yours is the kind supervised by some pastry chef or hotel, but I try not to care. Enjoying sweets is a woman's privilege, you know? Well, now I can laugh about how I gained weight by skipping out on chocolate, but when I was in my 20s, I lost a lot of weight due to stress. It was when I had just married my husband. I was troubling myself with a certain problem. I came because I was bored. Shoot showed up at my house with the same excitement as a newly dated girlfriend, carrying a sleepover set. This was the first time my husband and I had seen him since we got married. He would show up at my house on days we hadn't planned, for no reason. It would be one thing if he just came for tea, but it would only be for one night. Sometimes he would stay for 2 nights, so it goes without saying that it was a nuisance. I started to say, "Mom, are you here again?" But then I swallowed. I was going to work now, so there would be no one at home, and I don't think he would be having fun. I gently told him that I would prefer him to go home if possible, but I tried to be subtle about it. But he was so insensitive and selfish, and there was no way he could read the mood. It's okay. I know my house well, so I'll do as I please. Even though he calls it my house, he comes here several times a month, so it's true that this house is like a second home to him. Oh, this is annoying in the morning. Okay. Please go ahead and come in. With that, I invited Shithome into my home. Why did I invite her in? Because if I didn't, she would hold out until she let me in. Sometimes, she would start crying in front of the entrance. That would make me late for work. In fact, I've already been late twice because of my mother-in-law. I've told her not to come over without permission, but she always shows up with a look on her face as if I never told her, which is really annoying for my mother-in-law and her family. Also, it seems that on the first day she came to my house, she stole the spare key and made a house without permission, so she can just come into my house without inviting me. Since I'm renting, I wanted to change the locks, but if my mother-in-law has the key, then she's family. The landlord is reluctant to change the locks, saying that it's too much trouble to go through the process of changing the keys, so I can just keep using them as they are, so I'm in a situation where I can't do anything. It's a headache. In the end, even though I knew it wasn't good for me that day, I didn't have time, so I left my mother-in-law behind and went to work. But when I got home after work, my house was a mess, just as I expected. There were 4 cups on the table that I had made neatly. There was supposed to be only one person in the house. On top of that, there was a damp towel hanging on the velvet sofa, and water had been splashed all the way to the floor in the kitchen. Oh, here we go again. Mom always says this, but could you please stop using multiple cups when drinking? At my words, Shidong let out a voice that sounded like a gal from the early Heisei era, inappropriate for her age. Why don't you use multiple cups since there are so many? The only thing we have in the house is tea. Why don't you just use the cups you've already used for refills? It's a pain because there's more dishes to wash. But that's your job. Besides, I'm the guest. How much more are you going to make me put up with all the washing up and stuff when I don't do anything? With that, my mother-in-law slightly praised Ma and looked at me with a displeased expression. It was as if she wanted to say that I wasn't at fault. Thinking it was pointless to say anything, I sighed, gathered the cups, and took them to the sink to start washing the dishes. If you're going to come over to someone's house, at least don't make a mess. More importantly, what's for dinner tonight? Shito asked Nanki about dinner while showing him the cups she had used up. We're having curry today. What, make it sukiyaki or something? I came all the way over to visit you. Even if you say that, it would be a waste to have leftover curry from the other day. Leftovers? That's impossible. Isn't serving leftovers just saving you the trouble of making a meal? Aren't you ashamed of yourself as a wife? Oh, here we go again. Shito not only made surprise visits to my house, but he also had a hobby of bullying me. In fact, I once heard Shoot, who had come to visit my house, talking on the phone with someone and saying that his stress level had decreased since he started bullying his wife. For that reason, my husband refused to let his mother-in-law and his daughter-in-law come over, but this is what happened. It was a realization that while it's easy to cut ties with poets and co-workers, relatives and blood ties are difficult in many ways, as the law can't intervene. A little while later, my husband came home and looked at my sullen face and made a face. I told him not to come, but he came again. Well, that's terrible of him to be with his parents. I muttered sadly, but my husband had a look of deep disgust on his face. There's no, at my parents' house. It was around the time my husband got a job. My brother-in-law and my husband both have families and hardly ever visit my parents' house, so my husband must know that my mother-in-law is lonely all alone at my parents' house. However, it's also true that I'm being bullied like this. Even though I know I shouldn't treat my only mother any worse than she already is, I can see that he's losing patience with the hassle of my mother-in-law's eyes, and he's trying very hard to choose his words and swallow them. If you don't want me to say something you think is terrible, then at least do what I say. How many times do you think I've told you to stop making sudden visits? My mother-in-law looked puzzled at my husband's words and replied, I can't help it, I'm just worried about the kids. My husband slumped his shoulders in disappointment at his mother who wouldn't listen to him. She couldn't imagine that she was causing stress to the kids. My husband had been working overtime a lot recently and was completely exhausted. It must have been tough dealing with Shidong too. He just said, oh, as if he didn't want to talk to me anymore. He probably chose to ignore me because he knew I wouldn't go home even if he told me to. I can understand how he feels. He knows that no matter what I say, he'll still be here, so he wants to avoid having anything to do with me. My husband said, don't bother me all the time. I said, I'm sorry. I couldn't turn him away. I replied, it's my fault too. That's right, this isn't a problem of either of us being at fault. After all, the other person is a monster. Then one day, my husband suggested to me that we should start thinking about the kids. Honestly, my mother-in-law comes to our house all the time, so we're not in a position to try to get pregnant. However, considering my age and work situation, now was the best time to have a child. But what about your mother? My husband smiled when I asked him. I finally saved up some personal money. Huh? I had been saving money since before we got married. I spent a little on our wedding and had to save it again. I have enough money to move to a house with a children's room. Huh? When did you get that? Haha. Saving money is my hobby. My husband looked surprised when I said that. If we moved, the relationship problem would be solved, and we wouldn't have to invite my mother-in-law over. I was happy to be free from this situation. And so we moved without telling him, but on the day of the move, he came to stay. As usual, he was carrying his moving luggage in one hand and looking sullen, asking me what I was doing. My husband and I were pale and stunned. She's the type of person who usually comes unexpectedly, so why did she come to our house today? When we didn't answer, Sito asked if we were moving. We didn't want to answer, and it wasn't something we had planned, but we didn't say anything to each other. However, Sito seemed to think that our reaction was the emperor's, and she muttered, "I'm looking forward to the new house," as if she were going to live there herself. If possible, we didn't even want to tell her where it was, so why did it end up like this? We desperately tried to shake off the sheets, and no matter what my mother-in-law said, we refused to let her get in the car and tried to keep her away from us, but it seems that Nikado followed the moving company's car in a taxi, and she found out where our house was. Of course, we managed to stop her from coming into our house, and after a lot of arguing, we somehow managed to send her away. Of course, after talking to my husband, we decided, or rather swore, that we would never let my mother-in-law into our new house. Now that she knew where we lived, there might still be trouble, but if we let her into our house, it would be the end of everything. My husband and I have decided to refuse to learn at all costs, so why won't you let me into your home? When my mother-in-law showed up again later, she was furious that she wouldn't let me into her home. Incidentally, she had often come to my house before I left for work, but she had ignored me and left the house without talking to me. Since it was a holiday that day, my husband was irritated that their peaceful time had been interrupted, and he yelled at my mother-in-law, saying that it was because my mother was acting selfishly. I wasn't just being a little spoiled by my son and his wife. And yet you came to visit and wouldn't even let me into your home? It's too much. Being noisy. If you keep being so persistent, I'll cut off all ties with you. My mother-in-law narrowed her eyes and lowered her eyebrows for a moment at the word, cut off, that had come out of her husband's mouth for the first time. Perhaps, annoyed, was a better word. Even my mother-in-law must have thought that this was bad. My mother-in-law left my house looking a little depressed, saying, "You don't have to say that. I hope she'll take it easy on me." Then, about 2 weeks later, one day, Mr. Nishimura, a customer, or rather, someone who calls herself your mother, came to visit. I was shocked when a woman from my company's gym said that to me while I was at work. My mother was out of the prefecture, and I couldn't believe that a woman from the gym would ask me to respond to her. I had no choice but to head to the entrance, where Yasu's eyes were fixed on me. "You're late. How many minutes are you going to keep me waiting?" She said that and then walked toward me. It was so rude of her to visit someone else's workplace without permission. When I asked her what she wanted, she said, "You wouldn't let me into your house, so I came to see you in person." I couldn't talk to her unless I did this. I almost said, "You don't really like me that much, do you?" at my mother-in-law's words, but I kept quiet. If you just looked at her words, it sounded like she wanted to have sex with my daughter-in-law. She was lonely, but the real meaning behind them was that she was probably just stressed out because she hadn't bullied me recently. At least she wouldn't come to the office if that wasn't the case. She wouldn't do anything to inconvenience someone she cares enough to talk to. The meeting is starting soon. What? Are you telling me to go home? I know she's not happy, but it's inconvenient for her to come here so suddenly. Then let her stay home. Isn't it because you do things like this that I have to come to the office to help her? Oh, I thought, this is bad, and my mother-in-law started to raise her voice and half cry. However, she's someone who can skillfully shed tears, so I know that this fake crying is fake. I've never actually seen tears roll down her cheeks. My husband might be heartbroken to see me teary-eyed, but he'd calmly tell me to think of it as severe hay fever, and that it was rude, so I stopped caring. In the end, I managed to get over her half shouting and cursing me that day and went back to work. However, my mother-in-law continued to show up at the workplace, and the women and the men started saying things like, "Isn't she your mother-in-law or something?" The women at the gym are often made to respond in a manner that is very inconvenient. If this were a complete stranger, I would call security. I would just kick her out and move in. At that time, my husband had been away from home for about a month on a sudden business trip, so I was wondering whether I should talk to him about this. The reason for his business trip was that a senior employee had caused problems at work and had quit without notice. My husband went to work outside the prefecture to fill in for the employee, and I heard that he was suddenly made to learn the work that his senior employee had been doing, and was also made to handle the aftermath, and he was in a difficult situation. It's not right to tell him about my mother-in-law at a time like this. He's not in a position where he can get help when he gets home, and as a wife, I want to support my husband. I have to deal with this myself. With that in mind, I decided to apologize and tell the company that if they came to see me, they could call the police. The company, which had been really inconvenienced, agreed without hesitation. I thought it might be a bit excessive to mention the word police to Kiri's mother, but I guess it wouldn't be a bad thing since I was causing trouble for everyone at the company. Soon after, my mother-in-law came to the company and said, "I'll call the police," at the reception desk. She seemed to have been threatened and turned pale and left. She stopped coming to the company. I thought that this would return my peaceful daily life, but she couldn't come to the company. She must have become even more frustrated because she wouldn't let me into her home. Shito started making silent phone calls to my cell phone. On the contrary, she even called my workplace, insisting that she had something to do with my wife. To top it off, letters filled with her complaints about me started arriving in my mailbox. Apparently, Shito herself brought the letters to my house since there was no change. She's really good. I want to ignore it, but the phone calls to my workplace are depressing. It takes a long time to answer the phone, and I've asked my coworkers not to connect me to them as much as possible, but even that's causing trouble for the company, so I can't just sit back and relax. I wondered what to do, but I didn't want to be a bother to my husband, and then I found out I was pregnant. I had been feeling a little unwell lately because I thought it was because of the stress from the eyelids, but it seems that the pregnancy was the cause. I decided that I should tell my husband about the pregnancy and talk to him about it, so I contacted him right away. "What, you're pregnant? Really?" When my husband heard about my pregnancy, he was so happy. He's always loved children, He'd been looking forward to having a child with us, so I was really happy that he was so happy. Then I'll run to the office and get back there. But isn't work hard? No, I've been working hard because I wanted to get back there as soon as possible. I've also trained my juniors, so I think I can entrust them to them. I'll definitely get back, so please wait for me. Thank you. It's reassuring, especially considering my mother. Did something happen to your mother too? Actually, I told my husband everything that had happened with my mother-in-law recently. Then he said, I know it's a bit much, but can't you get 3 shots sooner? Huh? Why? I'm worried about you hanging around the company. I'd like to think that's not the case, but there's no guarantee that you won't do something to harm the scent. My husband's words made me shudder as I imagined what might happen. It's true that my mother-in-law's recent behavior is a bit out of the ordinary. To begin with, I don't understand why my mother-in-law hates me so much. My husband feels the same way, and my husband and I just think that my mother-in-law is just looking for a hobby. That's why, in the sense that we don't know what she might do, it's worth being vigilant and putting an end to it as early as possible, just like my husband said. Okay. I'll talk to the company and work together to get 3 shots as soon as possible. My husband seemed relieved by my words and said he would hurry back too. And so, my husband returned to our home within a week, just as he had promised. I also started attending school about 2 weeks later, but when my husband returned, perhaps sensing something, Shudo showed up at our house again early in the morning. Quote, Mom, why? My mother-in-law glared at me as I opened the door and stood there. Why? It wasn't, why? I called the company and they said she was having school lunches, so I had no choice but to come to the house. What do you need? Nothing. I replied nonchalantly and walked away. But that's just how my mother-in-law is. It's just tiring to be constantly being manipulated. My husband told me that if I came to the house without telling them, they'd cut me off. I can't get in touch with her. This is futile. And why are you having school lunches? Quote. I couldn't help but stutter at the question. I had told the company to keep quiet about the school lunches, but someone must have accidentally told them. I couldn't help but answer like that when she said it was my mother-in-law. However, I had talked it over with my husband and decided not to tell anyone about my pregnancy. Of course, I wasn't going to keep it a secret forever. That would be impossible. If I had my way, I would have preferred to wait until the baby was born, or at least until the baby entered its stable period. I wanted to spend my pregnancy peacefully. My mother-in-law asked me if I was pregnant when I kept quiet. She was sharp. She must have been convinced that I was pregnant. That's why she started to think that I was a good mother for being lazy around in my pajamas until this late. I did do housework when I was pregnant. There was no way I would have welcomed guests until this late. Huh. Are you able to do housework at such a low level? Which one? I'll check it out. You must be grateful. Hey, wait a minute. My mother-in-law shook off my semen and came inside. Normally I would have stopped her, but I couldn't resist strongly because I thought that if she pushed me in the face, it would be dangerous for the baby in my belly. Shito barged into the living room and laughed at the sofa, the one I had been lying on just a moment ago. There's a towel blanket lying around. And what's with the laundry? She just took it in and left it there. Oh, my son must be inconvenient with a wife who can't even do housework. This week she's been getting to know me like a fish in water. I thought she'd get tired of it if I just listened quietly, but that didn't happen. My mother-in-law kept telling me to clean this up right away. She kept telling me to make tea and all sorts of other things. Then she said the way I placed the cushions was messy and slammed them on the floor. Honestly, I have no idea what I did wrong, but I guess she just wants to find fault. I can really feel from my mother-in-law that she wants to vent all her pent-up frustration. There's no telling what she'll do if I don't listen. I had no choice but to obey her and do whatever she said. In the evening, when my husband came home from work, he looked at me with a pale face. That's to be expected. I later heard from my husband that my face, which hadn't been feeling well since the morning, had turned the color of mud because my mother-in-law had been bossing me around. My husband was furious when he saw my mother-in-law standing behind me. I didn't know she was coming today, but I didn't know Kaori was pregnant either. She's so pro-China. She didn't even tell me she was pregnant. You used to be a good girl. Because of this evil. Why do you hate Kaori so much? Kaori hasn't done anything wrong to my mother. Stop targeting Kaori with your harassment. Harassment. No, the evil in you didn't even do any housework. That's impossible. All you did was teach your daughter-in-law about her sexuality. I didn't ask you to do that. In the first place, I told her she didn't have to do any housework while she was pregnant. But Kaori has a strong sense of responsibility, so she's trying to do what she can. It's none of my business what kind of life my wife and I led. Well, she's not cute. I gave her advice for the sake of our cute son. Besides, if you can't take a break from housework and have a baby, you should just give up on having a baby. I don't think you're that close. My mother-in-law's words have broken my husband and I. We must never have anything to do with someone like that again. For the sake of our unborn child. I should have made my decision sooner. Huh? While I was still sulking at my mother-in-law's words, I turned all of her belongings upside down. What are you doing? You made a mistake last time too. There's no room for carelessness or openings. I'm going to search your belongings. Stop it, I didn't do anything. Can you believe it? Listen, Mom. I'm cutting off all ties with you today. Huh, what the heck? It's not that dramatic. It's not dramatic. I don't want parents who won't listen to me no matter how many times I tell them. They're just causing me trouble. They've forgotten that I raised them. I told you a long time ago that I would cut off all ties with you if you kept showing up at my house. I'm just going to make good on that promise. Get out of here. With that, my husband forcibly searched my mother-in-law's pockets and then kicked her out of the house. Although she had been repeatedly hinting at the estrangement, she probably never thought it would actually happen. Her annoying behavior suddenly disappeared, and it seems she had been calling her husband's cell phone apologizing frequently. However, her husband was completely furious, changed his cell phone number, and never spoke to his mother-in-law again. This continued even after we had a child. They had truly estranged themselves. Then, one day, 3 years later, I received this call from my brother-in-law's wife, Shiho. How are you, Kaori? Oh, Shiho, it's Golden Week. What's wrong? Well, it's been a long time since I've heard from your mother. Huh, Shiho's family was also estranged from their mothers, weren't they? In fact, my sister-in-law had become estranged from her mother-in-law long before we did. The reason was the feud between my brother-in-law's family and my mother-in-law. Apparently, my middle-aged mother-in-law did whatever she wanted, including harassing my brother-in-law's family. So, in order to distance himself from Shidong, my brother-in-law moved out of the prefecture to live with my sister-in-law's family in a fake house, and he hardly ever showed up at family gatherings. He hasn't seen Nikado in years. That's right. But then he suddenly contacted me and said he wanted me to take care of him. What do you mean, take care of him? When I asked, Yoshishi said, well, apparently my mother's older sister left home with a lot of debt, and they never got married, so even though my mother said it was an inheritance, it was more like a negative inheritance, and it looks like she'll have to clean it up all by herself. There must be a way to live without paying, but my mother doesn't have any legal knowledge, so she's scratching her head thinking she has to pay it all. And it seems like she's consulted not only with this but also with other relatives. Oh, I guess no one will listen to her in the first place. That's right. It seems like she can't get any advice. My husband and I have cut off all ties with Nikado, but we've been keeping close contact with other relatives because we've had a child. Even though we've cut ties with Shidome, it's better to have more information if something goes wrong. If I got along well with my relatives, I would hear about Shidome. That's what I thought. However, I was having trouble with all of my relatives. The cause of all of these troubles was something trivial, or rather, it was basically because my mother-in-law suddenly took a dislike to the other person and started harassing them. I thought my mother-in-law was someone who liked her daughter-in-law, but in reality she was a bit paranoid and had a lot of misunderstandings, and she would overstate things by blaming the other person for minor misunderstandings. Apparently, she had thought her mother was a strong-willed person since she was a child, but as she got older, those aspects of her became stronger. Relatives who knew Shidome when she was young said that she was originally a woman who didn't listen to others, and my father-in-law was surprised that she was able to stay married. None of them have declared estrangement anymore, but they're just like me, ignoring whatever my mother says. I was deeply hurt by my father-in-law's words. I can only say that it was her own fault. I'm not an expert on the law, and my husband could probably find out if he looked into it, but he just told me to leave it alone. I guess he is. My husband would probably say the same thing. Yoshishi sighed in annoyance. Maybe next they'll contact Kaori's house too. Okay, I'll firmly refuse. Yoshishi laughed at my words, but I was serious. About 2 weeks later, to visit at our house one day. I never thought he'd be in our house. To looked away from my words, looking guilty. I really feel bad about what happened back then. Then she said in a bad mood, you can't just say it was your husband's fault. My mother-in-law's eyes narrowed at my husband's words. You may know, but I want you to help me. I cut ties with your mother because I was afraid I'd end up in debt that I couldn't pay off. There's no reason for us to help you. T, please don't say things like that. You two are the only ones I can really rely on now. That's what my mother-in-law said, clinging to the hem of my clothes. My husband told her to leave. She deserved it. Before resorting to being spoiled, did you sincerely apologize to all the relatives you inconvenienced? That's right. It's too convenient to think that you'll come to us for help when you're in trouble after causing so much trouble. It's naive to think that you'll get help just because of that. My middle-aged mother-in-law didn't seem to have any qualms about what my husband and I said, and she replied regretfully, you're right. Okay. I'll apologize to everyone. So can you please set up a time for that? Quote. My husband and I exchanged glances at Shidome's suggestion. Well, fine. It sounds interesting and she wants to do it, so I guess we'll let her do it. In order to fulfill my mother-in-law's wish, we gathered our relatives and set up a time for the ceremony. Of course, we didn't want her to come into our house, so we decided to rent a small shop. And on the day of the ceremony, Kazuko apologized. Is she sane? The relatives who had gathered at our invitation seemed unable to believe my middle-aged mother-in-law's apology, thinking that she would just say something like that and get over it. Well, that's only natural. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law sat uncomfortably in the corner. When everyone had gathered, she spoke quietly. I'm sorry for having you all come together for this trip. Everyone was shocked by the words of the shutome. When she apologized haltingly, some jeered at her, telling her to speak more clearly. I've caused you a lot of trouble up until now. I regret what I've done, such as breaking your windows to harass you and swearing at you for no reason. Could you please forgive me? I won't do such a terrible thing to you again. I've reflected on my actions. Please. Shutome bowed her head deeply as she said this. Everyone listened to her story with a blank expression. Was that an apology just now? No, she seemed to be acting defiant. Which house had its windows broken? Our expensive futon was ruined too, but there must be more crimes. Our precious bun was thrown away from my grandfather's table too. Unsatisfied with the mother-in-law's apology, they began to expose the damage they had suffered. The relatives responded with that answer. My relatives were dumbfounded, and my mother-in-law was dumbfounded as well. I was the only one who noticed my mother-in-law's hesitation, and I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Mom, no one will forgive you if you keep acting like this. She looked at me in surprise at my words. You're not apologizing at all. On the contrary, you're just desperately trying to convey that you want help, and that's insincere. No matter what Mom says, everyone feels the same way. That's why no one will forgive you. That's right. All of my relatives nodded at my words. My husband sneered, saying, of course, and my brother-in-law and his wife looked troubled. I never imagined he was such a terrible person. There was a chance that someone would help him if he apologized. It's no use, Mom. My mother-in-law groaned on the spot. Seeing this, the relatives all started talking about cutting ties with her. At that moment, my mother-in-law turned pale. Many relatives don't say they're going to cut off all ties like my family did, they're just subtly keeping their distance and becoming estranged. It must be tough for me to be told that I'm officially cutting off all ties. Well, wait. Then I'll be the only one left. I'm sorry, I'll apologize. It's customary to desperately prostrate myself. Even so, all the relatives just enjoy their meal with impassive expressions. No one pays any attention to what happened next. Then my brother-in-law's 5-year-old child comes up to stop me and says, Grandma, when you do something wrong, you shouldn't apologize just to get forgiveness. My dad said you should apologize with the feeling that you're sorry to the other person. The relatives gasp at the child's words. I heard my brother-in-law's good advice and I couldn't help but tell my child the same thing. At the child's words, my mother-in-law, who usually just pretends to cry and sheds tears, bursts into tears, which is unusual for her. And that's right. I muttered, I'm going home, bowed slightly to everyone, and left the place. There were no words, but the bowing of her head was probably her mother-in-law's way of apologizing. With her mother-in-law disappearing, the party ended without causing much trouble. After that, she finally solved the family problems on her own, but it seems she consulted a legal consultation office and ran out of money. However, she already knew that no one would help her, so she seems to have earned a living by registering with a Silver Human Resources Center and working part-time jobs. She never got into debt even after she retired, so I think she must have worked really hard. I will never forgive her for what she did to me. Still, I acknowledge her hard work, as she finally seemed to have opened up, and my wife and I, my sister-in-law and her husband, held a small funeral. My husband and I have 2 more children now, so we are now a family of 5. They are all boys and they are not much older than us, so it's a big commotion every day. I've gotten used to being woken up by noises that make me think there might be a monster. Oh dear. She can't be satisfied unless she gets her clothes dirty. It's so muddy that you'd wonder where they came from. Seriously, where in this city is there so much mud? My husband laughed and said, I guess it's reassuring for a child to have a mother who will wash their clothes if they get them dirty. Well, I guess that's true. We still have good relationships with our relatives, and we've even gone on family trips recently. We've had a lot of things happen with Shido, but we want to use that incident as a negative example and continue to get along well with our family and relatives. Of course, if we do something wrong, we never forget to apologize from the bottom of our hearts. That's a manner that you should never forget, no matter how close you are to someone. That's how we live happily each day, grateful for the peaceful days we have.